ramp, and that's the destination. It's not the longest distance, but it is a testy one. 21.7 kilometres, and the wind and the wet, if it comes, will certainly play a part. Donegal Square then is the finish line where our commentary position lies. My name's Carlton Kirby, and alongside me is Daniel Lloyd. Dan, it's the first of the Grand Tours. It's always a great day, and what a great city it is that is lending itself to us for this event.
Yeah, great city, and a lot of people waiting very expectantly now for the race to kick off here. It's been months in preparation. Everybody looking forward to the Giro coming here for 2 days in Northern Ireland and then 1 day heading down to the south in Dublin before the entire entourage of the Giro then flies over to Italy to resume the race there. So I think there's got a lot of crowds along the route today to watch these riders, and as you said, Carlton, the race is literally just about to kick off now with the Columbia team. As you rightly mentioned, not really favourites for today's stage. They'll be looking to limit their losses, but after them, the teams going in 5-minute intervals. The second team off, Orica Green Edge, most certainly are the favourites for today.
They certainly are. Out-and-out favourites, I think it's fair to say. This is their target for the entire Giro, the team time trial. And they love bragging rights to our friends at Orica Green Edge. They're a great bunch of guys. And they have some amazing power on hand. Can't say the same for Columbia, but hey, let's see how they roll, shall we? We're in the Titanic Quarter, where the great vessel was, of course, built. Harland and Wolff, the boatyard, H&W, and they can almost brand it up and have some T-shirts. So we are about to get ourselves underway, and the bike holders doing a terrific job. They are little diminutive chaps, Columbia. They're not the heaviest. We've seen a few drops in the past, but let's hope they go well. It's a reasonably technical course, this, Dan, and it's also wide open. And look at that. There's a certain purity about all having the same flag, I reckon.
Yeah, I think there's a number of teams actually here with just one nationality. Columbia, of course, full of Colombians. I'm really looking forward to today's race. It is going to be extremely fast with the top guys. They'll be cruising along the flat sections and straight sections at around about 60 kilometres per hour, possibly even more when they're with a tailwind. So it is very, very fast. The people on the side of the road are going to get a real sense of just how fast these professional cyclists go. I'm really looking forward to seeing Orica Green Edge, but first of all, let's cheer these guys off.
We are underway. The Giro d'Italia has begun. We're in Belfast, and it is team time trial day. Columbia first off the ramp and settling nicely into their stride, you might say. As soon as we say that, first right-hander, and they get a little bit ragged. Now, just to remind all of you not familiar with the team time trial, the fifth man across the line sets the time for those ahead of him within the team. You have to have 5 that finish. You may lose some guys along the way. In fact, some of them will be on burnout. They'll be thinking about just preserving, or at least limiting the damage today, this team anyway. And we'll have a view in just a few moments' time as to whether the crosswinds may well have in effect. We will be staying with Columbia for 5 minutes before we then hand back to Orica Green Edge, who'll be off the ramp next. Then come Tinkoff Saxo, then Francis Leger, Katusha, Movistar, Lotto Belisol, and the rest. I know a lot of the fans here are waiting for Tinkoff Saxo because it is, of course, Nicolas Roche, who will be off the ramp here in Belfast, and there'll be a huge roar when he comes into position. Dan, reasonably well protected, but and we do have some very wide open and flat roads here. Road surface excellent, which is good, at least for the time being. It could all change if the rain does come.
Yeah, it certainly could make a difference if the different teams have wet conditions and dry conditions, etc. Everybody will hoping that it remains dry throughout. The wind is supposed to be dying down slightly over the course of this evening. At the moment, it's around about 23 kilometres with gusts up to 36, but by 7 o'clock, midway through tonight's race, that will have died down to, I think, 16 kilometres per hour on average, with gusts much less than they were, or they are right now. So that could also play a part. For those of you wondering why the teams go off in a certain order, well, it is completely random, which is why we've got pretty much the favourites for the stage, or Green Edge starting second today. Drawn out to the hat today, which means we've got the Italian Pro Continental team, Neri Sartoli, finishing last.
Under one of the bridges, plenty of roads closed in Belfast, and everyone's been extraordinarily good-natured about it. Just looking at the style here, and at the moment they're looking a bit ragged. They're not close enough together to offer up enough resistance in the wind you'll see them cycling through. So a rider comes to the fore, he does a turn, protecting his teammates from the wind, and then drifts back. In terms of old money, what sort of speeds are they doing here?
Looking at them now, I would say around 53, 54 kilometres per hour. Always deceptive on the television, doesn't ever look quite so fast as they are actually going. Some seem to be taking slightly different lines around this corner. Very, very technical discipline, the team time trial. Very easy to get it wrong, and only the best teams that practice.
Oh! Goodness me, and they are
particularly on corners. Of course, when you make the change with the rider on the front is quite key to making things smooth. So if you did what the rider did there and peel off after your turn just before a corner, it means that everybody has to go around you through the corner. You lose a lot of speed, and so the best teams again won't be doing that. They'll be making sure that they change their rider on the front on the straight sections so they can easily just go past them and slot back in.
Big flick of the elbow out there from Romero, number 78, and it's looking terribly ragged for these guys. Now, you can see as they're coming into and out of the corners, they finally set themselves down. We had two riders disengaging and tracking back to the back of the line. And if you're thinking, well, what protection does this offer up riding behind a teammate? What are we, about 35, 37 miles per hour in old money, about 55 kilometres per hour. If you were to be riding in a car and you to hold your hand flat against the wind out of the window, you'll certainly feel it. And that's the amount of protection that's being offered up, more than that, by those at the front of the line. So they take the wind, if you like, and those behind rest up. It really does have a dramatic impact. You want dramatic, you want drama, you want to see the best time-trialling team, a team time-trialling team on the planet, you may well be looking at it right now. Matt White has organised his boys. He won't tell us who is going to cross the line first. I believe we've got a birthday boy amongst the team today. More on that in a moment. Santa Romita is the man that is going for the general classification. The rest of the team are here for exactly this. Now, this is a superbly drilled team time trialling team.
It certainly is. They've finished a very close second in the previous two World Team Time Trial Championships to the Omega Pharma Quick Step team, but that Belgian squad hasn't really brought their A-team in terms of time trialling, which is why Orica have ended up being out-and-out favourites for today. They've got some huge engines in the team, 5 Australians here, of almost a recent generation of track guys, and Brett Lancaster, you can see there, second or third in line at the moment, part of the previous generation of track riders, all of them very, very comfortable at riding at 60 km per hour on the flat, and I'm expecting a very fast time, and the benchmark time for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if no one manages to pass them before the end of today.
I'm actually a little bit worried because Colombia is so ragged, despite the fact there's 5 minutes between them, and oh, and look at that cloud. I tell you something, if Orica Green Edge get home and then it rains, it's over. Certainly as far as the team time trial is concerned. They don't have a huge challenge when it comes to the general classification. Even Santa Romita apart, they're looking at sprints for Michael Matthews, basically, plus this team time trial. So I guess we can allow them this favour, if you like, of the elements that they run through today. Everyone else gets a dowsing and posts a much slower time. That cloud is very ominous.
For those of you who joined us from the start of this programme, you might have seen my interview with the Director Sportif, Matt White, where I tried to tease out who might cross the line first, respectively, or hopefully go into the pink jersey at the end of today's stage. And of course, he was remaining coy, but had a quick word today with Brett Lancaster, a former teammate of mine, and he said actually they generally don't pick anybody before, and it's whoever comes round and through to the finish first goes into that jersey if they have the best time. So will they perhaps talk between the riders and give it to Sven Tufte, as you rightly said, Carlton? It's his is it 37th birthday, I believe, today?
He doesn't like to talk about it.
Will they give it to their Italian rider who you mentioned, Santa Romita, or will they give it to Michael Matthews? The thing with Matthews is that he has a chance to go into that pink jersey should they set the best time over the next couple of days, which should end up in a bunch of sprints.
I think Matthews is a good call because he will be looking for sprints. Time bonuses therein. No extra bonuses today, don't forget, because it is the time trial. And already suffering as far as Colombia are concerned. Shalaput, he's distanced. And once you're off the back of a train, it's almost impossible to get back on if they're at the limit, because basically you are taking the win all by yourself. There's no respite, and I think he's good.
Yeah, I think he... It's difficult when you go up a climb in a team time trial. If somebody's feeling particularly good, then it's very easy for them to put the rest of the team into the red. So again, the best drilled squads will actually go up there at more like 95%, just to make sure no one's pushed over the edge, nobody gets dropped. So you've got everyone capable of giving some big turns on the route back here.
Tinkoff Saxo, Nicholas Roach, and the Irish tricolour there for all of you to see. He is their GC choice, although Arredondo, I beg your pardon, Rafa Majka of Poland, also very much to the fore. Listen to the roar. That is for Nico, and away they go. Now this is a half-decent time-trialling team, just courtesy of the fact that they operate in the World Tour, and indeed have been a long-established team. They've sort of been in rather nicely last season, and going through this.
Yeah, they're doing a very good start, very good pose, and that's important. You see the rider at the front there, just looking around, that is Nicholas Roach, the Irish rider, just to make sure everybody's there, and that is extremely important.
Let's see how many people I can catch up to.
If you sprint out of the corner, you can see the ninth person is still going round it, and particularly on the tight corners, that can really put them into trouble. So Nicholas Roach doing the right thing, just starting off steady. Last thing that you want to do is go into the red over the first 2 or 3 minutes when you've still got 20 to go. And the others, I'm not sure if that's a premeditated thing or whether he's already starting to feel the efforts of his teammates in front of him, but he will just be shouting to them saying, "Hop, come back into the group before I come past," and that's another important part of the team time job. Communication between the riders to make sure that everybody knows what's going on.
Well, they had problems with Chalaput, they had problems with Romero, and they've now got problems with Toro. That is, of course, Colombia, and they're running out of personnel. You have to take the time from the fifth man home, and if he's distanced, Dan, you may as well wait for him and help him home.
Well, yeah, they're going to have to. I think they're down to, what, 6, 7 riders now? Are they 6 riders? Colombia over there on the right-hand side. So here come Orica Green Edge up to this first point at 7.9 kilometres. They'll be stopping the clock there soon. I'm expecting a time well below 9 minutes. Should give them an average speed already of over 53 k's per hour.
The crowds here, absolutely magnificent. They've all taken their spongy hands with their pointy fingers. And they'll be going particularly nuts when Nico Roche comes by in a wee while. We're looking at Orica Green Edge, and they're doing a superb job of just staying in formation at the moment. All personnel are here. It looks like they may well thin down a little bit before the end, but they need to protect Ivan Santaromita, and he's the man who's staying at the back and not moving forward and taking his turn on the front. They spread wide across the road to take this.
I think it's probably that the wind is coming from their left-hand shoulders as they come up here, so to get maximum protection from the wind, which is still an advantage even on a climb. They're just spreading slightly over the right-hand side of the road. But look how composed they were on that climb, really not pushing things over the limit in any way whatsoever, and that will really benefit them over the last part of the course. Let's not forget, this is really only 1/3 of the way through, roughly, of this team time trial, so still a long way to go before the finish, and they'll really be able to put the hammer down on the second half of this race. Right, it might just have been that Matt White in the car behind was signalling something to Brett Lancaster, and he was just saying, I understand what you're saying, and we're all fine up here.
Francis Dejean. Nasser Bouhanni is their super sprinter. Expect him to nick a few off Marcel Kittel. Eli Viviani and Bouhanni with Kittel, probably the absolute cream of the crop when it comes to our sprinters here. But don't count out the likes of Pataki from Omega Pharma Quickset. Even Ben Swift, of course, from Team Sky, can go very quickly when he needs to. We are going to have some terrific sprinting days. That black cloud is looking very ominous. I bet Francis Dejean are very glad to get off the ramp right now.
Yeah, Nasser Bouhanni looking for his first ever Grand Tour stage win here this year. He, of course, was part of the Giro d'Italia in 2013, but like Viviani and all the other sprinters, he came up against a very informed Mark Cavendish, who picked into the line on a number of occasions. And this year, of course, he'll be hoping that he manages to beat Kittel. More about the sprinters in this race later, but out of those here, Kittel does seem to be head and shoulders above the rest, and I think these guys are going to have their work cut out if they want to beat into the line on those flat stages.
I think this distance is short enough for Giant Shimano to do a proper job today on behalf of Kittel. They've got some big engines in there. They may not be the team that comes straight to mind when it comes to team time trialling, but they don't have that much of a distance today, and it's not that testy a terrain. And Kittel can climb in a reasonable fashion that ramp that we're dealing with up to Stormont today for that first intermediate check. Tinkoff Saxo then, and everybody knows that Nico Roche is part of this team, and he's been doing a good job. He rolled off the ramp first. There he is, second from the end, number 201. He's a big powerhouse, isn't he? And he's a lot older than you think. I always think of him as a young man, I guess by comparison to his lovely father. But yeah, he's kind of grown up under our radar.
Yeah, 10 years professional already. He's not old, he turned professional very young, at 19 years of age, with I think the club in his team. And has had a very good career already. 2 times in the top 10 overall at the Vuelta a España. And for those of you who saw my interview earlier will realise that his preparations weren't fantastic for this race, and the knee injury really hampered his training over the off-season, the winter months. But he said he's feeling good now. Here we go then, Orica Green Edge with one rider just coming off the back now.
Yeah, I think that was part, perhaps, of the plan, but Mitch Docker has done a big engine turn up there. They are looking after Santa Romita and Michael Matthews. Santa Romita for the general classification, so they lose one of their personnel. That's by design. I think as far as Colombia are concerned, it's by default, and in fact they're in danger of, if they shed another couple of riders, they're going to have to start waiting up. They've got one more joker to play, Colombia, who we'll see, I'm sure, in a few moments' time. But Orica Green Edge are doing a great job of chasing this down. 12 minutes, just over 12 and a half minutes into their run. We'll find out what is likely to be a decent time when these guys come through. Because Oric's word is already going round, and there's lots of shakings of heads. Paolini's not happy, the man with the beard. The next to him, Joaquin Rodriguez. They know they've got their work cut out here.
Yeah, well, it's not great, is it, for the GC riders? I mean, there's a lot riding on this team time trial for the likes of Joaquin Rodriguez, who was second here a couple of years ago. Number 181 there, the man that's finished 6 times in the top 4 of the last 7 Grand Tours which he started, and he'll be hoping to not concede too much time to his key rivals at this opening team time trial. And amongst those key rivals are a couple of riders from Tinkoff Saxo, who, as you said, Carlton, started with pretty dry conditions. Although, having said that, it doesn't look to be raining there at the start just now.
No, and in fact, I can tell you the drizzle, because that's all it is looking like it's starting to abate. But you never know with clouds. We could have a proper full burst later on. So it may well be conditions are variable throughout this for different teams. Somebody's going to be a big loser because of the wet today. I'm almost certain of it. Match. Orica Green Edge, we digress. Orica Green Edge just coming up to 17 minutes into their run, and in this part, of course, it is clearly much wetter than at the finish, and the rain's coming down, and it's coming down good and proper right now at the finish line. The brollies are up, and so is, I think, the chances of Colombia. They started off the ramp first, which is going to be a massive advantage. They may not feature in the top 5, but this may help them not finish in the bottom 3.
It very much depends on how these weather conditions progress over the next hour and a half or so, because the last team, Neri Santori, don't go off until 7:30, so we've still got an hour and 20 minutes until their ride. Could very well blow over and clear up, and exactly what we didn't really want to see in this race is the discrepancy between the conditions that different teams have got.
3 kilometres to go, and you can see Rubiano there, number 79, clearly struggling just to stay back on because they're accelerating out of the curve. We've got 6 riders here. It's no good one man going off the front. Even the great Alberto Contador likes to reach out and grab for this sort of thing, and often punishes his teammates. And right now, the man that's doing that is Pantano, number 76. He went out, they have managed to catch back up. And all credit to the people of Belfast that despite the rain, I guess they're kind of used to it, they are staying put. There's no sign of too many brollies. I'll tell you something, if this was Italy, you couldn't see the crowds for the rain covers. Colombia, we thought he was struggling out of the last corner, and Rubiano's gone. They've got no more men to burn here. They've got to finish with the 5 that they have.
No, they've not got too far now before they hit the finish line. No, deceptively hard this part of the course. It's just a slight drag, but enough after having been on your limit for a long period of time by that point to really put the hurt on a number of riders. Orica Green Edge, well, will this rain hold out? If it does, they are going to be massively hard to beat, more so than they were before we even started this time trial. Still Santa Romita there on the back, hasn't done a turn from what I've seen so far in this race. Leaving it to the big time trial engines, we've got the current and former national time trial champions of Australia here, Michael Hepburn, this year's time trial victor, and Luke Durbridge, who won the event last year. come through the second of the intermediate checks at 15.3 Ks with a time of 17 minutes and 37 seconds, which puts them 54 seconds ahead of Colombia, average speed of 52 Ks per hour.
If we were going to pick a team to be on today's podium in terms of time, Movistar would be amongst that trio. They, BMC and Orica Greenedge. This team, of course, contains a Colombian, Nairo Quintana. He is a superstar. If you see him walking around, you probably wouldn't even blink twice. He's a very diminutive, unassuming character. More on them in a moment, because right now we have the finish of Team Colombia. And they've only got 5 men, and they have to stick together. It's the 5th man home that sets the time for those who cross the line here in this group. All their teammates will get their own individual time, but you've got to have 5 at the line. And this time, it's probably going to be better than perhaps they would have set had the rain not come down on those behind them. They've had, what, 60% of the course in the wet today. That final turn is going to find somebody out today, and they've already broken down even on this last 300 metres. It's quite a nasty, testy 90-degree turn at the 250-300 mark, but this is going to be our first time today, and it's going to be over 26 minutes. That's not brilliant. There's the 4 plus the 5th man will stop the clock. 26.05 and sub 50 kph, not brilliant.
No, I think Orica Green.
Yeah, let's hope so, because otherwise it's going to be that sort of dice element, if you like, that's been put into the opening day. That is Joaquin Rodriguez nearest to us, and this is Orica Greenedge, and this time is going to be a bit special. There we go, they're down to, what, 6 men? That's a good number to have at this point. Just look at the time gap. Colombia finishes 26.05. Orica Greenedge are going to be sub 25 minutes here. So it's going to be a mighty minute for them. And in fact, it's going to be nearly a mighty 2 minutes, for goodness sake. They're heading for that turn that we said, the 250-300 mark. And they'll be underneath that finish line in front of our commentary position in just a few moments' time. And this is going to be a very, very good benchmark for us. Spat out to the other side of the road. They keep it safe. Just need to drive this one home. They know the rain's come, and they know that they've had a bit of an advantage, but they're being greedy, and this is good.
Canadian birthday boy and time trial specialist Spain Tuft has been on the front pretty much the entire last kilometre, and he crosses the line first of the team. We come across in 24 minutes and 42 seconds, a minute and 23 ahead of Team Colombia, and I think it would be fantastic if Tuft went into that pink jersey. Let's see what the other teams can do, but that's certainly a major benchmark time for everybody else to chase.
Yeah, birthday boy. I think he's got that nailed on his back, to be honest, unless it dries up entirely. Off the ramp we come then, and it is Lotto Belisol. Now, this is a team that picked up some new team time trialling bikes last season, and as soon as they got on them, they went extraordinarily quickly.
Yeah, they most certainly did. I think it's the Noah Fast is the name of the Ridley bike that they use, and they look fast from the side, and they seem to be doing the trick as well, because I think they first used them at the team time trial in last year's Tour de France. They got something like 5th place on that stage, hand flat, really suited to the kind of guys that they had there that were there to lead out Andre Greipel. Meanwhile, Movistar, the Spanish World Tour team, losing Igor Anton. A little bit of a surprise there. Great climber and in some ways a good general classification rider himself, but will be very much at the service of Nairo Quintana at this year's race. Quintana still safely ensconced in the remaining Movistar riders here. Still young Quintana, 24 years of age. In fact, would be, I think, the youngest Grand Tour winner since Damiano Cunego here 10 years ago, if he was to win in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, Cunego winning at 22. Oh dear, we had a tumble, or is that just somebody divorced off his team? Yes, it is. The latter, thank heaven. Not saying that's a good thing, but not as bad as it could have been. Nairo Quintana needs to stay there. Anton, that is not brilliant for him. Igor Anton, I beg your pardon, for Movistar. We saw him off the back. Struggling with Katusha at the moment is Gusev, as you can see, but he's managed to get back on, which is handy.
I think he must have had a problem. Let's look at the replay here now.
But it was, oh, goodness me, breaks out straight to the barrier, managed to shed enough speed to get back on, and had the power to reach there as well. Swan here just racing on. It was a quick response team. It looked like the milk tray man was going to help out there. No chocolate, you understand, just a dirty great big shove.
Just to give you
Looking at their split down, Movistar in 9.26, 4 seconds slower than Colombia. That's amazing, because Movistar are a very good time trialling team. Here comes Tinkoff Saxo. Now this has done some great favours for Nico Roche, because this is going to be a decent time for them, courtesy of the weather that is falling upon everybody else. The race to the line, it's going to be 5, but they've come with nearly all their personnel. That's not bad.
No, I think they'll be reasonably happy with that. They come with a very rounded squad, including Mick Rogers, who's come back after the UCI overturned a suspension that he had for a clenbuterol positive after the Japan Cup last year. Apparently, kind of recognised that he ingested it accidentally through meat consumed at the Tour of Beijing. So he's actually going in his second race of the season. He made his return to racing a couple of weeks ago at the one-day classic Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but a very important part of their squad who have very big ambitions for the general classification here.
Track Factory racing underway. Kizilowski is their big hope, but don't count out Arredondo, yet another Colombian. At least Colombia are starting to share a few of their fabulous climbers out and about. Arredondo could be an outside choice, but they're not going to start today amongst the favourites. They do have sprinting options as well, with Giacomo Nizzolo and Danilo Hondo, who should go well on this kind of course today. I'm still really reeling because of Anton. I was expecting him to at least stake a pat. Maybe they just do want one team principal. Who knows? This is Katusha. Man nearest to us is Joaquim Rodriguez. Now that man has finished second too many times in his career when it comes to Grand Tours. And in fact, if he wins this Giro d'Italia, I think he's amongst, he may well be the man who's finished most times, and then won. I'm thinking how many Grand Tours he actually been in and how many stages he's actually been tested, and then won. We'll check that fact for you, but nonetheless too many, and he'd like that to come to an end and take victory here. 2012, he lost out by just 16 seconds to Ryder Eschdal on the very last individual time trial into Milan. And he doesn't want any of that nonsense.
No, he certainly doesn't. He comes up against the man on the left-hand side of your screen, Quintana, with very similar characteristics. Very good punchy climbers, particularly on the steep climbs because of the nature of how they are really lightweight bodies, under 60 kilograms, which makes it much easier when the gradients kick over 10%. But there is a lot of time trialling over the next 3 weeks. We've got this team time trial today. We've got 2 individual time trials, although one of those is a mountain time trial, which of course will be down to the ground for them.
Incidentally, if you'd like to share your thoughts, we're on Twitter. It's Carlton Kirby, CarltonKirby, or Daniel Lloyd 1, DANIEL so 3 L's in the middle, you'll see, with a number 1 on the back. So Daniel Lloyd 1 or Carlton Kirby, and we'll take some of your questions, because I think we may have time today. Movistar, looking at them now, I'm waiting for Quintana just to relay back, as you see another team teeing themselves up to take the start today. Sculpted Kirby bottles hiding in the frame, none of that nonsense. Here's Belkin, one of the retro design jerseys these days, and this as well is a team who can time trial extraordinarily well. They've got a lot of power on board, with the likes of Chillingy, Van Emden, Kaiser can go very well, Marty Kaiser, Rick Flens, Yetzabol is their sprint talent. He's been given the nod for this one, so watch him in the next couple of days, with Wilco Kelderman and Kreiswijk going for the GC and doing well in the mountains, you can be sure. Great to see the crowd getting involved with the launch of each one of these teams. It's fantastic. Great atmosphere here in Belfast. And Belkin underway.
Yeah, Belkin, one of the kind of outside bets for today's stage, although given the way they're going to have to ride on the wet roads, it's not looking so good for them or anybody else that starts after, to be honest. Katusha are continuing to have an absolute nightmare, in my opinion, out there. Second intermediate time check. 5th place for them, 1 minute and 13 seconds behind Orica Greenedge. And if we look at FDJ, who run really a strong time trial outfit, they're almost 20 seconds difference between them as they come in towards the finish line now.
France Tischer then, this is going to be an interesting one for them. They'll easily beat Colombia, incidentally, so don't worry about that. They've only got a couple of hundred metres to go, less than that in fact. There we are. The last 150 starts right now, and it's fifth man across the line. Just to remind you, are they going to get sub 26? Actually, no, it's not that much difference, which shows you what Colombia, 26 flat, that's what they take it. But a minute and 18 down, third quickest so far on the amazing Orica Green Edge, who also were blessed with the weather today.
Here we go then, the other French squad here, Team Europe car, who again have got a World Tour licence for this year. Pierre Rolland, their #1, the guy that did very well in the Tour de France a few years ago. Many tipping him for a potential run at the King of the Mountains at this year's Giro d'Italia. See what the Frenchman can produce. We've got the Japanese rider Arashiro here as well, who's shown some great form over the last few weeks.
Yes, it's Arashiro's nearest to our side camera. When we go to the start, you'll see him once again. He's a man who really burns himself for the team, but it's a terrific team spirit within Team Europe car. You all know about Tommy Vogler, or perhaps you don't. Some refer to him as a bit of a clown, but he's the most unbelievable motivator within the team. He's absent from this, and he'll be dealing with the Tour de France, but Pierre Rolland is a man who has been, great things been expected of him. He's another French false dawn, I'm afraid. Hasn't really worked out as far as the Grand Tours are concerned, and this day hasn't worked out at all for Team Katusha, and this is going to hurt Rodriguez very much indeed.
It certainly is. A time gap of around about 30 seconds between this team at Katusha and Movistar, who've just come through the intermediate time check, so a far from ideal start for into this race. It's kind of second favourite for the overall, and well, we were saying before we came on air that these first three stages are really about not losing too much time for the GC riders, and I would say that it's mission accomplished for Katusha Rodriguez here.
I think that's the very polite way of saying it, and I think you are going to see a very forlorn-looking Joaquin Rodriguez when Katusha come across the line. They're already deep into the 26 minutes here. This is time that you have to make up with time bonuses and stage wins, and particularly in the mountains when it comes to Rodriguez. Look at that, it's terrible.
1 minute. I think by the time they come into the finish here, there'll be about a 40-second difference between the two here, Katusha coming into the finish, and Movistar, who should be in around about 4 minutes' time.
His own shoes, you know.
Yeah, that was a great link, actually.
We try to please. The security staff doing a terrific job here of just keeping a rather enthusiastic crowd at bay. I'm not quite sure about these air clappers. I don't really want to know what do you call them? I don't know. Yes, they kind of get in the way, and if they do start picking off hands, they can actually cause accidents. Not my favourite thing in the world, but then again, they used to hand out cardboard hands until somebody nearly lost a bicep. Probably the worst paper cut ever. Anyway, let's not dwell on that. Still makes me feel queasy. Here is one of my favourite teams, actually, Lamprey Marina, and it is Damiano Cudigo, who is a former winner, don't forget. Well, at 22, it's a bit longer in the tooth these days, and it would be a huge gap between victories if he didn't.
It certainly would be. I don't think he's quite got it in him to take a victory at this year's race, but has shown some consistent form over the last few months. But let's watch this Movistar team coming in towards the finish. Let's not forget that the finish time of the Katusha team just over 26 minutes, I believe.
Yeah, 26 back more or less, and they're going to beat that here by, well, 23 seconds. That's Katusha, certainly, because they both contain a favourite. But shipping 55 seconds to Orica Green Edge, who probably won't challenge for GC. Then again, they're taking a hell of a cushion. I think it's Michael Matthews is going to be absolutely licking his chops. He's got the same finish time, don't forget, as our birthday boy today within his team, Svein Toft, who will be wearing the leaders jersey tomorrow. But Michael Matthews, provided he just has a half-decent sprint, will be into that tomorrow. Orica Green Edge then, with the best time, Tikoff Saxo and Stephen Roach. That's a great run for them, only 23 seconds down, with everyone else being hampered by the rain. Nicholas Roach, I beg your pardon, Stephen Roach, Nico is, that's a great fillip for him at the top of this event.
Yeah, it certainly is, and also for Rafael Maika, of course, did great things here at the Giro last year. Ding-dong battle between him and Bettencourt. 82 art for the white jersey of the best young rider, and he's back to improve on his 7th place overall last year. So 2 leaders for Tinkoff Saxo, and they'll both be very pleased with the outcome so far of today's stage.
Looking at Team Europe car right now, and they're just under 7 minutes into their run. They look reasonable. That's about the best you can say of it, but I'm just wondering, you know, if this is going to blow by, because right now there is no rain at the finish line, and I'm wondering whether some of those who are dreading it going later on, like BMC and Canalens, they go 4th from last, incidentally, so 3 other teams to come after them, including Omega Pharma, Astana and Neri Satoria, who will finish proceedings today. Team Sky, resplendent in their sort of dinner suits, well, pinstripe city suits, I guess. Derek Cataldo, Edvald Bosenhagen, Damien Eisel, Gomez Enau, I beg your pardon, Sebastian Enau, Christoph Sutton, I'm getting mixed up with my French here, Puccio Switzer and Ben Swift, who can go very, very quickly. Now, this is not Team A.
No, I mean, they've got a very, very strong squad here. I mean, the likes of Bosenhagen, Ben Swift, you know, all the guys here very, very strong, but Team Sky very much concentrating on the Tour de France with Chris Froome again this year. They were going to come with Froome's key lieutenant Richie Port with desires for the general classification at this race, but got ill when he returned from Europe after a promising start to the year at the National Australian Championships and the Tour Down Under, and just the team decided to pull him out before the start so he can concentrate on being at 100% in July for the Tour de France. So it looks to me to be a squad predominantly going for stage wins here. Maybe overall, perhaps for Sitsov, 3rd in line there, who's come top 10 here as well. Cataldo 2nd behind Ben Swift there, who's also been 12th overall on 2 occasions.
Well, they're extraordinarily well marshalled. Say whatever you like about Sky, they are brilliantly managed. They may be slightly diminished in some of your minds, but you just wait, the season is far from over. We'll see how Sky go today. There's some big, big powerhouses here, including the likes of Bernie Eisel. Sebastian Enau, incidentally, cousin of Sergio. He's only 20 years of age, and he's the youngster of the entire peloton. He really is a kid, but he's operating in a man's world that can do well. I don't think Lotto Belisol can, and I think today is going to hurt them. Let's see how they come across the line. And you see the time here. That's Francis Lejeune in 4th place. I guess they've actually done quite well of achieving this situation, because they were down to 5 quite early on in this run.
Yeah, they certainly were. 2 stage winners of this race still remaining within this 5. We've already mentioned the Australian Adam Hansen. We've also got the Danish rider Lars Bak, who won a stage for a breakaway a couple of years ago. And the man on the front leading them across the line is their GC hope, the Belgian rider Maxime Montfort.
You're not mistaken, that was Colombia that have gone faster than Lotto Belisol, and indeed Colombia went faster than Katusha, courtesy of the weather, but that's awful. If you're under 50 kilometres per hour, it's not great today. The weather, though, has hampered them, and 26.16 is what we have got for Lotto Belisol. Through some of the corners, they're not happy at all. This is Lampre Marida, number 101. In your face, Damiano Culico. In fact, he's misrepresented. That's Alan Hunter, beg your pardon.
Now, Culico is number 100. Of course, and it's worth mentioning now, actually, that they don't have a number 108 anymore, and that's because of the tragic death 2 years ago, in fact, to the day, of the Belgian rider Wouter Weidert in this race. So nobody will ever have the number 108 again in commemoration of him. And that's why this team starts with number 100, which, as you said, Carlton is Damiano Culico. Number 101 was winner Anacona, yet another Colombian in the race. They've also got another guy who might have designs on the general classification, the Polish rider Niemiec, who was good recently in the Giro del Trentino, which was won by Cadel Evans. They've also got the sprinter Roberto Ferrari, who is perhaps best known for wiping Cavendish and some of the rest of the peloton out in a sprint finish in Denmark at the Giro when it started there a couple of years ago, and going on then to take a stage win at the race a couple of weeks later. We've also got Matteo Bono and Manuel Mori, who's a very, very experienced rider. A couple of gaps, Carlton, already opening up within the Sky formation.
Yeah, I guess when you've got power, you use it, but you have to apply it gently. And the corners we were talking about, when you exit there and draw out a line, the danger is that it may snap. Luckily, they've got people like Eisel and they've got people like Bosenhagen who can re-marshal it. We're talking about the way they are managed, Sky, and every single aspect of their racing plan is exactly that. It is planned and executed beautifully. They burst onto the scene a couple of years ago, and since then they have had unrivaled success for a new team, especially with the victories of the likes of Bradley Wiggins and Chris Froome when it comes to the Tour de France. And in fact, I think they were rather surprised by their performance here on the Giro last year. It threw up some surprises to many of you. Right now, no surprise, it's a tough climb this, especially in the wet. I'll tell you something though, Lapa and Marino are doing a good job of holding all personnel together to this point. This bodes well for Europcar, who are not having fun at all. This is Cannondale on the ramp right now. Ivan Basso, twice a winner. He's 36 years of age now, just coming off the ramp. And another veteran, of course, here, Longo Borghini, also long in tooth, but high on ambition, I guess. Danny Ratto could go well, he's decent in the sprint, but it really is about the sprinter, Eli Viviani, that they will be thinking about. And they'll be hoping that they have a decent time trial. They're not a bad time trialing team, the men in lime green, as we watch Trek Factory Racing coming to the line. Thinking about Nizzolo and Hondo for the sprints. And this, well, not as bad as I thought.
No, they've not done too badly. The last intermediate time check, Trek Factory Racing were moving up very slightly, and as they cross the finish line here, exactly a minute behind our current leaders in fourth place at this point in time.
Trek Factory starts here in Ireland, 2 days in Belfast, then one down towards Dublin before the flight to southern Italy, and the race returning to its home. The 11th time, incidentally, that the Giro started outside of the boundaries of the boot that is Italy. And yeah, it's fantastic. The atmosphere here is just electric, as you can see. The crowds have turned out. I'm not sure how many or how indeed you measure it, but it is many hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, it certainly looks to be a few deep almost the entire way around this course here in Belfast, the opening stage today. 21.7 kilometres of the Giro d'Italia 2014, 97th edition of this race. Team Sky on the road in front of you at the moment. Bernie Eisel, one of the most experienced riders from this team. 199 Ben Swift there. Fantastic year for him so far, after a kind of injury-ridden 2013, which was a complete write-off for him. He's come back with vengeance this year. Stage win at the Coppa Bartoli, third place at Milan San Remo. Big surprise there, and a fantastic performance at Tour de Basque Country, where he won a stage, but managed to stay with some great climbers. Well, I think only 14, 15 guys left coming in towards the finish, and of course he, by far the fastest of all of them, and taking a magnificent stage victory in a World Tour race there.
Yeah, I thought it was carrying a bit more weight as it came out in the winter. It's clearly done him some good, and it hasn't taken too much away from his climbing abilities. And as you quite rightly said, we called him through the trees from distance, but almost didn't believe it, and there he was.
Maybe this is why you're not in great form, having lost weight over the winter, Carlton.
They may well be running a negative split, in which case they've got some energy left for later. This is Giant. Now, it's starting to dry up a little bit. The rain has abated at the finish line, and I think that Giant might just pull something of a surprise today. They've got a massive, powerful team, and of course, head and shoulders above almost all of them is the young man that is Marcel Kittel. Won up the Champs-Élysées, don't forget, in what is regarded widely as the unofficial, albeit, Sprint World Championship, the last stage on the Tour de France. This is Belkin just approaching the finish. We'll come back to Giant Shimano in a moment. Let's just watch this team come to the line. And it's not a bad performance by Belkin. We said sometimes they surprise and take that extra stride forward, and that's precisely what they have done in difficult testing conditions.
Fifth place for the Dutch squad, then just behind Trek by a single second. 9 squads have come in so far. Current order, Orica sitting on top in a time of 24 minutes and 42 seconds. Behind them, Tinkoff Saxo, then Movistar, Trek, Belkin, FDJ, Columbia, Team Katusha, and currently last is the Belgian team Lotto Belisol.
Yeah, indeed, I'm also looking at the back end at the moment of Chris Sutton.
Yeah, last-minute replacement for Pete Kenyon, the British rider who withdrew from the start of this race due to illness. Chris Sutton himself coming back from injury, I think a problem with his knee after a crash earlier on in the year. Did the Tour of Romandy recently, which was won by his teammate Chris Froome, but obviously not still quite on his best form, Chris Sutton, and dropped off the back of the 8 remaining riders up here. Or is that 8 or is that 7? Can't count. 7 riders. I think Bernie Idle perhaps also got dropped on the way up to Stormont there.
I think he did a big push early on. Big loser today so far is Joaquin Rodriguez and Katusha, shipping a minute and a half more than 1 minute 33 to be precise to Orica Greenedge, but significantly shipping a good portion, unfortunately for them, 37 seconds to Movistar, who are 3rd quickest. Now, there are bonus seconds up for grabs during this year in Italia. It's on the intermediate sprints on an open road day, so not a time trial. You get 3, 2 and 1 if you cross the intermediate sprint lines. That's seconds bonus, incidentally. So those are seconds taken off your total time. And you get 10, 6 and 4 at the line. So the winner of a sprint stage will get 10 seconds bonus, or any stage in fact, that's contested as opposed to just against the clock, a time trial. So you can amass stage wins, but for Rodriguez to pull out the bag so many stage wins to make up that deficit is going to be very, very difficult indeed. There's a lot of questions going on here, and I'm wondering who they've lost. And there's your answer. And it's not a man that they can afford to. I bet it's good to go.
I think it's Niemiec.
It is, right. And they want him back because they have to nurse him and make sure he's up there and he's back on for the GC.
Yeah, he's back now, but that will really have affected the time of Lampre, who actually weren't doing too bad. 7th at the first intermediate check. They haven't quite reached the second one yet. 18 minutes and 20 their time there, and the current best time at the second one, 17 minutes 37 seconds. So not a great start for the Italian squad. Not sure exactly what happened to Niemiec there, whether he got distanced after a corner or had a problem with his bike, but certainly the team car behind radioing up to the riders saying, look, we've got to wait for this guy. He was top 10 overall last year. As I said, great form in Trentino last week, or a couple of weeks ago, which Cal Evans won, and he's really their main pick from my point of view for the GC. So, you know, just had to stop and wait for him and let him get back on, because otherwise the race could have been over on day 1.
Yeah, for him. AG2R Le Mondial in their brown and white handy shorts if you have a tricky moment. Here they are, they're off the ramp right now. Let's hope they go safely. Also a very handy squad. David Apollonio is their sprinter. He can go quickly, but it's Domenico Pozzovivo. Many people talking him up, and he's had some pretty good results. 10th in the Giro, 6th in the Vuelta last time by. So if you continue that progression, if you like, he might well be a top 5er, who knows? If they go well, and it's drying off right now, favouring these late-running teams. Alexis Viamos also for them can go well. This is a team who should go well and haven't. Europe car, they've looked a bit tardy. Have they put anything into the second half of their run?
Although they were way down even at the first of the intermediate time check, just trying to see exactly what time Eurocar did there. 56 seconds down, 9 minutes 56, so they're not going to be setting this race alight in any way whatsoever here.
No, in fact, I'm not sure what they will be lighting up today. It's not great at all for Pierre Roland. It's going to be individual stage victories for him targeting, because as far as the time is concerned, he may as well be standing there waving it goodbye as the crowd here scream them on. Terrific atmosphere in Belfast. Not a terrific performance, I'm afraid, by Team Europcar, and they've shipped a whole load. 10th, a minute 48 down on Orica Greenedge.
10th of 10 at this point in time. That's a lot of time to lose, 2 minutes, almost over a 20-kilometre course with 21.7, and you can see Zanturo there just looking behind, all sorts of disarray amongst this French team.
Yeah. One of my favourite teams, Androni Giocattoli Venezuela. Why is it favourite team? Well, courtesy of Gianni Savio, the Prince, they call him. There he is, DS, Director Sporting. It's hard to say what he looks like until you actually see him. But imagine a 1960s game show host, and you've kind of got it. he's a hell of a character, and he manages to sign up some great riders as well. Some of them, you might say questionable, but that may be unfair. He's got Johnny Hooperland on board, that many of you remember being tipped into the barbed wire after a television car, not ours I might add, nudged into the riders out front. Antonio Fletcher also being cut to ribbons. Hooperland's out there and he's on course, still carrying plenty of stitches by the way. Lamprey Marina don't look like they've taken too much of a stitch, I'm afraid. There we are, it's going to be 26, and they're looking at each other. Fifth man over the line, stops the clock, 26.02, and at least they bust the 50, but a minute 20 down on Orica Greenedge.
Yeah, I think that really kind of goes to show how bad Katusha were on today's race. The Lamprey team, despite their troubles, despite having to wait for their GC leader, Niemiec, still beat the Russian team by 13 seconds. So a really poor start for Katusha and Rodriguez in this race. Legion rider Edvald Borsen Hagen here off the front, leading the team in. Last year of his contract at the team, there's possible talk of him leaving to go to somewhere else, perhaps Orica Greenedge, so he'll be looking to do very well over the next 3 weeks.
Just about to take the final turn, and this is a very, very good time. Sky, well, they had some rain, it's been a drying course, but Tikov Saxo is their target right now. I don't think they're going to get quite there, but they've done a superb run, considering that they started off in the rain, and Tikov and, of course, Orica Greenedge were blessed with fairer conditions. It is drying, however, and I think this might be the start of some quicker runs right now. Sky and Movistar, they're going to beat Movistar's time and go third quickest with a 25.17, but look at that, 51.496 kilometres per hour. And Dan, they weren't the quickest in the first part of the course. We were talking about negative splits, and I think that was perfectly executed. Kept something behind and delivered it.
Yeah, I think they did a very, very impressive ride, Team Sky. I mean, they did start on wet roads, so to only concede 35 seconds to the Orica team, who looks so strong, I think is well, a job well done for the British squad. Only 12 seconds behind Tinkoff Saxo. I think they'll be pretty pleased with that today.
I think you're absolutely right. It's interesting as well to see occasionally you get a rider who just decides not to ride with spectacles. And yeah, a couple of their number, in fact, decided to eschew the eye protection. It can actually be more of a hamper than anything else. Yeah, you just want to clear the eyes with, well, blinking, frankly, and you don't want all the gunk on your lenses occasionally, no matter how good the formula is that you're sprayed on to actually help the rain sheet away. This is Androni Giocattoli in their sort of multi-sponsored jerseys. They used to carry an awful lot more sponsorship incidentally, so it was even more confusing. They kind of used to look like their design was that of a pizza. Just chuck anything on and see how it looks. But yeah, looking a bit more formal these days, which I think probably bodes better for them. And then Omega, Astana and Neris Hatoli, who will be our last. Giant Shimano setting their own rhythm, and it's not a dancing beat, I'm afraid, although Kittel will be looking for stage victories. His ambition of having a decent time trial, I think it would have had to be extremely dry. The back are just peeling off the back, they're running out of personnel, and I think if he had a decent time trial, he may well have got the bonus seconds over the next few days, perhaps found himself in the leader's jersey, because we have 3 back-to-back sprinting days after this team time trial. It would have given a perceived advantage. He could have thought of 30 seconds, perhaps, in time bonuses at the line.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for Kittel now. I mean, they'd already lost a chunk of time at the first time check, waiting for them to come through the second one now, but yeah, only 10, 6 and 4 seconds bonuses available on the finish line each stage this year, which is half of what they had last year. So even with 3 sprint stages, even if he wins all of them, he possibly still isn't going to go into the pink jersey, which is, I guess, a disappointment for Kittel, who of course won the yellow jersey on the opening stage of the Tour de France last year.
2012 winner, Ryder Jadal, his back end, familiar form, extremely long of leg, particularly between knee and ankle. And this is the team that has Tyler Farrar as their sprinter, and of course Daniel Martin, a man whose name is reversible. Martin Dan could be. Is he a Midlander? Is he a man from Ireland? Very much an Irishman if you speak to anybody here from the Emerald Isle. But they have some claims to him. back Birmingham way, or West Bromwich way. Garmin Sharp then are on course. It's a decent team, and they can go well in time trials when they're minded to.
Yeah, there's a real speciality of Garmin Sharps. A few years ago, I would say now, in fact, in their first ever participation at the Giro d'Italia in 2008, they won the opening team time trial. Christian Van der Velde, I believe, going into the pink jersey there. It was kind of the old guard, though. Van der Velde amongst a couple of riders from that team on that day who have retired over the winter months. And looking at the composition of the squad, I don't see them really putting Orica Gwynedd into any problems today. But again, another squad that will be looking to limit their losses with Dan Martin and Ryder Hesjedal, former winner, of course, as we mentioned, Carlton, for the overall competition.
We are looking at Bardiani on the ramp. This is a team that's often punch above their weight, usually on days where breakaway riders have their fun, and Pirazzi is possibly, well, certainly amongst the vanguard of those breakaway specialists.
Well, of course, we saw him animate pretty much every stage of the climb last year, Pirazzi, and well, he got his just desserts, winning the Mountains jersey. And actually, I wonder whether he's looking at all to the overall classification this year. He's kind of an old school climber, Pirazzi, isn't he? He doesn't go at a constant pace like many modern riders do. He's constantly changing his pace. He'll be blasting off the front, even on a climb at 30 k's per hour 1 minute, and then almost at a standstill the next.
Yeah, I never quite know why. There you go. It's quite incongruous. Cannondale heading for the sub-26 minute, which is the absolute minimum you require here. And it is a very good time. They may well not have the smoothest style, but you know, it pays. And look at this, they're going to beat Movistar, who started today as one of the favourites. And it proves that drying conditions, we're seeing some faster and faster times. We're back up there.
Well, they did well. They were 20 seconds behind Movistar at the first time check after 8 kilometres. So they've had a great second part of this race. But I think, as we've already been saying, Carlton, things are starting to dry up over those last few corners now. So that will make a difference. And BMC will be really overjoyed if it continues to stay dry, and the sun might even come out here, because that will really help them. They're going off the line now in around about, we've got 5 minutes before BMC leave.
It's going to be Aussie joy today, you just feel it. All right, Svein Tuft is Canadian. We know that. But it is to go with Neri Sitoli. There must be cock-a-hoop. But BMC is the team that we're really waiting for. Orica Gwynedd, you had that mixed run, dry and then wet, don't forget, are the benchmark setters so far. But some teams have come through and gone very, very well indeed, including Team Sky in a partially wet run, and Cannondale likewise, who engaged a negative split, holding something back. This is BMC. This is the team of Cadell Evans. He is, of course, a Grand Tour winner, and he's here to do some serious damage to everybody else. And I reckon this team, which, let's remind ourselves, Dan Lloyd, is a very good time trialling team, could actually have a party.
Yeah, I think they're going to put in a good time in this team time trials there. We're watching Giant Shimano now coming in towards the finish. The minimum 5 riders there. Marcel Kittel is the man on the front sprinting, and I'm sure the others will be struggling to hold his wheel. He looks like he's on good form. Let's not forget, it's the 5th rider across the line who will stop the clock. So time ticking on there. Not a bad time though. 5th place looks like to be where they're 6th place provisionally for them. Just lost a couple of places there over the last 100 metres or so as the clock ticks by. 56 seconds down on the current best time. But yeah, going back to BMC, I think they'll be very, very happy that things have started to dry up. They took the team time trial victory at the recent Giro del Trentino, with Evans going on to take an individual stage victory on a mountaintop finish and the overall classification. That's a team full of confidence. Brent Bookwalter is within the team, one of 2 Americans at this race, along with Tyler Farrar of Garmin Sharp. Actually, this morning took a tumble, Brent Bookwalter, whilst practicing the course, not actually on the course, but after completing 1 lap, they headed back towards the start, and actually he hit one of these bollards like you see in the middle of the road here. Luckily unhurt and able to start today.
A bit of very serious climbing here. Serious contender has to be that man, Uran.
Yeah, Uran riding for Team Sky last year, firstly at the service of Bradley Wiggins, who came to the race as one of the favourites for the GC and the team leader of Sky. Uran, after Wiggins crashing or going out through an injury to his knee, Uran ending up 2nd overall behind Vincenzo Nibali, who isn't here to defend his crown this year. So Uran now the team leader of this Omega Pharma Quick Step squad. They've also got the very, very experienced Alessandro Patacchi, kind of in the middle of your shot there, who's won, depending on which way you look at it, 22 or 27 stages of this race.
Yeah, it depends on how naughty you think he's been, but clearly the authorities thought extremely naughty, and so took 5 of those away from him. Off the ramp, and away they go. I like this team. This is a team I like. Whether they like the course, I think they probably will. They certainly like the weather. And 82 on the Mondial. There they are. And they're taking that final turn. They're going to hit above their weight, I think, because of the conditions.
Yeah, I think they are going to be quite pleased with their time today. Pozzovivo, the definitive climber there in the middle of the shot, just sprinting. Still got a number of their riders left, a couple in hand for the 5th place across the line. And I think, again, for a team that's not really noted for their team time trial capabilities, they're going to be reasonably pleased with that. They're ahead of the likes of Trek Factory Racing by a couple of seconds, well ahead of Columbia and Katusha. Katusha, for those of you who have just joined us, having a horrendous time out there today. And really, Joaquin Rodriguez, one of the favourites of the overall race, the big, big loser so far today.
Yeah, well, we said you couldn't win it, but you can lose it. And I think maybe Joaquin Rodriguez has done just that today, I'm afraid to tell you. It wasn't a great performance by his team. We're still waiting to find out exactly what the trouble was. This is BMC. This is the team of Cadell Evans. This is a very good team time trialling team. And just look at the beautiful way that they relay themselves down the line, tucking in, getting out of the wind. This is time trialling brilliance.
To me, they look slightly over the limit. Number 52 there, that's Brent Bookwater, the guy who crashed this morning, and looks like potentially he might be already getting dropped, which wouldn't be at all good news. He's very strong time trialist, Brent Bookwater, and his first ever Giro d'Italia, I think, was 2010, starting up in the Netherlands, 2nd in the opening, I think it was either, I'm not sure it was a prologue or opening time trial anyway, that day. So he's a very strong guy on the time trial bike, and he'll be a big loss for the BMC squad today.
If you do take a tumble, oh my goodness! 4 down, and that's Dan Martin, and he's holding his elbow, and they're not touching him at the moment.
No.
He's rocking and rolling. Let's just hope he's okay. He's taken a whole bite of the tarmac here, I'm afraid, and he's gone down hard on his left elbow, and he's staying there. That is not great. And oh my goodness. Well, we said the road conditions were very, very testy, and they have been bitten here, I'm afraid. Cardozo also staying down. He looks okay, but Dan Martin certainly does not. And they're having to wait. They're having to wait because they have to get 5 men across the line, and this is going to take time. Oh, and Martin's still on the ground.
What an absolute disaster for Team Garmin Sharp here as they watch the other teams whizzing by on the other side of the road. This is game over, I have to say, for all GC ambitions for any rider on this team. Ryder Hesjedal, they're all waiting for Dan Martin, who actually just overlapping the wheel. I think it was Dan Martin who was the first to crash, wasn't he? Yeah. Oh, no.
Oh, well, that's it. Reaching out for it, grasping at it, and this is disaster. It was a drain cover. It was a drain cover. I don't know whether it started off the skittle, but he certainly went down very, very hard indeed. And worse than that, he stayed down. Back on the bike is Nathan Haas. And, well, everybody looking extraordinarily concerned. And this is the reason why. And Dan Martin is still on the deck. And that's the end of any ambitions he's had for the GC. And we just hope that he can actually continue within the race. Because right now, he looks in a bad place.
He does. We can't see him on our screens just at this moment in time. That is Cardoso there, the Portuguese rider who signed for the team over the winter. Charlie Miguelis, the sports director, of course, looking extremely concerned. And it really could not have got off to a worse start for this team.
We've got one rider with a pedal missing, actually, at the moment, as you can see. And that looks like a nursing clavicle at the moment. Dan, just explain the position of the rider at the back there. And here he is, Dan Martin for a moment. And he's clearly feeling for the collarbone. And I think that's it, Dan.
Oh, I just don't know what to say, really. It's after so many months of preparations, mental and physical, to come to a race in the first 15 minutes end up like that is just horrible to see.
Too many riders went down. If you're wondering why they're still riding with damaged bikes, they didn't have enough bikes for them, essentially. They handed them all out because, and it's the wrong bike as well. You can't compete on a bike that's missized for you. And Dan Martin, if you're only just joining us, is on the deck, and it looks like a broken collarbone. He's sitting there absolutely stunning. He's in no hurry to get up, but he knows the gravity of the situation. Androni Giocattoli heading for the line now. What a shame for Dan Martin. And listen to the cheers of the crowd here. They've kind of regathered themselves. They're getting the news through. There's big screens up here as well for them to see proceedings, and they would not have liked the sight at all. Who would? Dan Martin hitting the deck. Round coming, trying to Giocattoli Venezuela, keeping it safe. It was a drain, a skiddery steel drain cover. They've all had to deal with it. It's the same for everybody, but it just seemed to chuck out to one side Dan Martin's wheel, and down he went very, very hard onto his left-hand side, and he's holding on to that arm, and we'll get back to him in a moment. In fact, it was his right arm, I beg your pardon. Minute 14 down for Androni Giocattoli Venezuela. They are 10th at the moment, but the team that's going to be plumb last, I'm afraid, is Garmin Sharp. And we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I am
hugely disappointed for everybody in the race, really. They've got 5 riders back together now to, of course, have to, they need to finish today. I hope the jury takes some discretion at the time of the other riders who come in later on, because there is a time limit on today's stage, as there is on every stage, which a couple of the Garmin riders might well be outside of. But looks like they've already lost at least one rider, one of their favourites for the race, one of the favourites of the people on the side of the road here today, and it really is the worst possible start for Garmin, for Dan Martin, and for all the people here watching as well.
Michele Scarponi wearing number 1 nearest to us, and I think that's a warning beacon that has been lit to just about everybody. Agnoli in number 2, Aru, Brajkovic, Gasparotto, Bozic. We missed these guys coming off the ramp, certainly. Landa, Tirolongo and Zeitz, because we of course were looking and very concerned for Daniel Martin. Winner of Liège-Bastogne-Liège last year. He's taken some tumbles this year, including in that event where he was going to repeat the feat. Through and past come Bardiani. And unfortunately, those are the legs of Daniel Martin. At least he'll be on his feet, but away to hospital, I think, and broken collarbone almost certainly down.
Yeah, it looked from the way that he was holding his arm that there was certainly something. He landed heavily on that side, didn't he, when he came down? And it, of course, happened so quickly at that speed, and I still was kind of lost for words, really. I mean, you're looking ahead at 3 weeks, and all of a sudden it's all over in an instant. But in kind of excitement, for want of a better word, or dismay of seeing Dan Martin and his teammates crash, BMC did roll through the intermediate time check-in, 3rd place, 12 seconds down on Orica, so that's the best we've seen since the rain started to fall. Tinkoff Saxo still 2nd there at 5 seconds, so this team going well despite Brent Brookwater dropping off the back. I think, am I right in saying that's Sammy Sanchez? I don't think I am, actually.
It is.
They don't come here with their A squad from that discipline.
Astana will be the next up. Start up Storm and Hill. Right now it's Neri Satoli, all going off at 5-minute intervals. These are the last team off the ramp, and as you can see, some have taken a stroll into town. No disrespect to these guys, but they're not going to set the world alight, despite the fact they have the brightest, fieriest outfit of everybody. Rabatini is their man, along with Monsalve, the Venezuelan. Francesco Kiki, the veteran sprinter, and they just need to stay safe, and we hope that everyone does. They come off the ramp, and it is our last team underway on what has been a day of mixed fortunes in this team time trial. Well, we thought that Joaquin Rodriguez was the big loser on the day, courtesy of a dampened run. It's dried out, it was drier before his team condition went out there. It looked like his fortune was really the worst of the day, but it's been exceeded, unfortunately, in terms of injury. And indeed, he's out of the race. Dan Martin hitting the deck very, very hard indeed. And what a shame for all fans of cycling, and not least those who've turned up in their hordes to help cheer him across the line. They've had some good news, I suppose, in the form of Nicholas Roach and Team Tinkoff Saxo have had a very good run today, albeit blessed by good conditions. However, the late running of these teams in the dry may well nudge them further down the order. We're looking at Garmin Sharp, the hobbled team. When Dan Lloyd said that the commissaires would look favourably, what we're talking about is not being thrown off the race due to exceeding the necessary time limit.
Now looking back at the BNC squad now, I'm just trying to count how many people they've still got here. 7 riders, so 2 have gone to the back. We saw Bookwater, the first of those, the American riders who crashed in training this morning, was the first to be distanced quite early on actually in the race. 16.5 minutes so far. The time at the second time check for Orica Greenwich, 17 minutes and 37 seconds. I think BMC are going to be somewhere up towards 18 minutes when they come through there. Amongst this 5 men that are coming in towards the finish now, but I'd say Tour very much over for him already.
Still no confirmation about Dan Martin, but he is out of this year's Giro d'Italia, I am afraid. 28 minutes. Oh, let's have a look at their average speed as well as they come across the line. Listen to the crowd, listen to the roar. Gladiators, all of them, but 3 minutes 26 given away, and even if it wasn't for the break, that would be it, I'm afraid, for the challenge for all men from this team, including, let's not forget, Ryan Israel.
News from the course. Team BNC have come through the second time check, 10 seconds down on Orica. They were 12 seconds down at the first check, so they're closing in on the Australian squad, and this could be a lot closer than perhaps we were expecting after we saw Orica's time.
There is Dan Martin before his arm was put in a sling. He is now on his way to hospital with a suspected broken collarbone.
This that perhaps Nicholas Roach of Tinkoff Saxo was going to be the best placed GC rider at the end of today, but it very much looks like it's going to be the Australian Cadel Evans, winner of the Tour de France in 2011, third here last year in the race. Very, very focused on the race this year, and he is going to be exceptionally pleased with this time.
Big turn, the last one, 250 metres from the line. It may not be good enough to beat Orica Greenwich. It's going to push it close though, however. Very tight indeed. Still got, 150 or so metres to go. But it is going to be second place for BMC. But amongst the GC boys, they're going to be the daddies. And I'll tell you something, Cadel Evans has done an absolutely amazing time here, as have his team. All right, they've had the blessing of the weather. They had a dry run here. But nonetheless, that was impressive.
Yeah, it certainly was. They're going to be extremely pleased with that time today. A lot of time that Evans has put into his key rivals in the race. In fact, more than a minute to some of the very, very key rivals. Amongst them, Katusha and Rodriguez, who's already a minute and 18 seconds down on Evans in the overall.
Terrific performance by BMC and by Cadel Evans. And if you're a Cadel fan, which I am, of course, unapologetic about, I think he's a terrific rider. He is a peculiar character, but he is totally fascinating. And who put it past the 37-year-old? We've seen men older than that. This is, of course, taking the Welsh at the age of 42, near enough. Orica Greenwich then. BMC, 7 seconds only between them. And indeed, of the GC boys, Cadel Evans is having a party. Where a Movistar on that list right there, I've got to tell you, the 6th place, 55 seconds down, so he's actually gained an absolute three-quarters of a minute, basically, on the main GC contenders before we've had any climbing.
Yeah, 48 seconds the difference between Evans and Quintana. For those of you who have just joined us, some very variable weather conditions for the teams. The first team of which was Colombia, who started out at 10 to 6 local time. It's now coming up to 7:45 here in Belfast. So over that course, he started off with dry conditions for Colombia, Orica Greenwich and Trek, who set some great times out on the route. Orica Greenwich, of course, looking set now to win this time trial, which actually was to be expected really before we even had those different conditions. But the likes of Katusha, the likes of Movistar, some of the other teams with GC favourites contained within, really had some bad conditions, really had to slow down and take things careful on the corners, and that has really affected the outcome of today's stage.
And yet again, the bunny hopping capabilities of the peloton being writ large. Here come our friends. Overgate Farmer Quick Step looking for the line. This is a good time. Orica Greenwich, in fact, no wonder they are worried. They're about to take this final turn. And this is going to be close down.
Yeah, it certainly is, and let's see exactly what time they come into the finish with. 500 metres to go, 30 seconds. They've got this corner, it's going to be tough. They need to average 60 k's per hour. I don't see them doing that. Only 20 seconds now to the time of Oracle Green Edge, and going to be close, but not quite close enough for the current world's team time trial champions Omega Pharma Quickstep. But I think, again, they're going to be pleased with this results today.
I think so. It's not their A team, don't forget. Great rivalry between Omega and Orica. And the line does beckon. They're not going to get it. They might get second place. They're just ahead of BMC. Here we go. There it is. And they do by a margin of 2 seconds. So 5 seconds down on Orica Green Edge. I think they'll take that, you know.
Yeah, I think they probably will do.
Omega Pharma Quickstep. And of course, Rigoberto Urán. And terrific that we have a good performance by Evans' BMC team and Urán's Omega Pharma Quickstep. They worked for that. Perhaps more than you think. It is not their A team as far as team time trial is concerned. I think they took a step above themselves there.
Yeah, they certainly did. I was, not thinking they were going to finish mid-pack by any means, Omega Pharma Quickstep, but they lacked the likes of Mark Cavendish, who's a great team time trial rider, especially, of course, Tony Martin, Kwiatkowski as well, who's been performing so well the last couple of years. And I thought without those names that they might struggle to be up there with the real big guns today, but they proved me wrong.
Maybe it's the weight of expectation. They decided to match it. This is Astana on the course right now, just looking slightly ragged on the changeover at the back, but settling themselves in nicely on the straighter part of the course. They've got about 4 minutes, 5 minutes of their run, 4 minutes, I should say, to go. Neri Satoli then will finish us off today. It's been a dramatic day. There has been plenty to talk about, and in fact, plenty to sort of hide your eyes. Because unfortunately, if you're only just joining us and you're wondering how Dan Martin has done, he's done a collarbone. Neri Satoli into the sunshine. Almost looks like they are solar powered themselves. They really are lit up in the gloom that is just starting to brighten and lift at the end of today. Oh, 150 minutes to go for Astana. It's going to be outside of the top 5 for them, I believe, by the time they hit this line. Team Sky's time there. Team Sky going off in pretty damp conditions. And in fact, it's the second difference. But Astana on a dry run, not getting as close as Sky on a mixed run, wet and dry run, talking sandpaper. So, it's one more team still to come. Neri Satoli, we've got 5 more minutes before they hit the line. And, well, we know our result because I've got to tell you that Neri Satoli are not going to set the world on fire despite the brightness of their jerseys. Astana then, one of our slow-mo cams here, just carrying them across the line.
6th place for Astana there, 38 seconds down on the current leaders, Orica Green Edge, and as I said, I think they'll be pretty pleased with their time as well. It puts them ahead of a number of key rivals. They're around about 30 seconds down on Evans and Urán, but of course, so many stages still to come. Anything can happen, but there'll be a few very pleased people and a few extremely disappointed people at the end of the day. I'm intrigued to listen to the reaction of Joaquin Rodriguez at the end of today's stage.
Performances today. Taking that final bend with 300 to go, Neri Satoli, and they'll just open up the taps in the run for the line. 200 metres. Well, the men in yellow finishing their run, and in fact drawing the opening stage of this 97th Giro d'Italia to a close. Plenty more still to come, of course. 20 more stages in the run to Trieste. Belfast has been our glorious start to this first of the Grand Tours, and indeed first team at the top of the real timing screens. Orica Green Edge. I know Columbia went before them, but we knew that run would not stand. Orica Green Edge took over the King's seat, and they have not been dislodged. They are our leaders, and in fact it will be Sven Toft, the birthday boy for Canada, the Canadian within that largely Aussie team, that will have the leader's pink jersey. Dan Lloyd's just heading down to try and have a chat with some of those who've been blessed today, I think you might say. I think that's fair to say. And their confirmation of the result. Orica Green Edge with a time of 24.42. Omega Pharma Quickstep did a great job to get close to them, helped by Rigoberto Urán, who's very much part of the thoughts for the general classification. BMC and Cadel Evans in third place, with Tinkoff Saxo fourth ahead of Team Sky. Astana in sixth place, Carandale, Movistar. They can feel aggrieved, I think. 55 seconds down, that's Nara Quintana. He's got a mountain to climb, quite literally, several of them in fact, and he needs to go very well and find 55 seconds along the way. If he around, there are time bonuses, don't forget, along the way. There are your team time trial standings with the gaps. Some big ones out there, all the way down to Lotto Belisol. And indeed, of course, I'm afraid to say, Garmin Sharp. And the sad news today is that Daniel Martin has taken a bad fall and is out of this year's Giro d'Italia. It is Sven Tuft.
Happy birthday, Sven. Not much better way to celebrate it than a pink jersey of the Giro d'Italia.
Yeah, it's an amazing day. It starts out with a lot of stress, and I'm like, wow, this is a pretty crazy way to spend your birthday, and then to finish on that note was what a treat, and I can't thank my team enough for giving me that opportunity. It's a once in a lifetime for a guy like me, and what a fantastic team.
There's a few riders in the team who are the first time participants of the Giro. I mean, they must be absolutely over the moon.
Yeah, I was just talking to Michael Hepburn, and he's like, is this how it always is for a Grand Tour? And I'm just like, no, this is a special day, man.
I was trying to get out of Matt White whether there was a predetermined ride to cross the finish line first. Was it decided before the start of the stage, or was that just how it rolled towards the end?
They gave me the gift. It was really a birthday present. You know, this team is really selfless that way, and I just feel really fortunate to to be given that gift on my birthday.
Congratulations again. I hope we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks very much.
What a nice man. And what a nice present indeed. Orica Green Edge then, they came through mixed conditions and they delivered today. Nearest team to them, Omega Pharma Quickstep, and of course Rigoberto Urán. He, of course, heading by just a couple of seconds. Welcome to the first day of racing proper on the Giro d'Italia. We're on the road, and as you can see, we've been blessed with sunshine. 219 kilometres, though, as we head out from Belfast up towards Portrush and then back along the glorious coastline. Thankfully, the cloud, at least for the time being, is reasonably high, so the helicopters are up and the riders are on the road, some of whom quite literally. And what a road it is. Absolutely beautiful. Heading up towards Portrush and just cutting by the ancestral home of the MacDonald clan. They've actually sent pink painted horses out, well, not real paint, you understand, in order to escort the peloton through their ancient lands. And I'll tell you something, when you have a look at the coastline, you understand why they said Portrush has one colour. They've built some big ships today. Indeed, in the past, I should say, but today, everyone set sail for the northern coast. Portrush, beckoning, and the giant causeway, a natural phenomenon. Hexagonal granite. We just recently figured out how that was made. It's a beautiful part of the world, and if we're blessed with sunshine, it will light up like an emerald. Past the old Bushmills distillery, no time for any of that today, maybe tonight. It is a spectacularly beautiful part of the world, the Atlantic doing its best to null the countryside. And fishing is, of course, a trade for the heart. Well, you want to trade for the Tahard as well? What about being a pro cyclist? The weather today, Rain, pure and simple. Well, not quite as simple as that. Never is the weather in these parts. It's bright at the moment and indeed dry at the finish line. Let's hope it stays that way. 11 Celsius, 15 kilometres per hour is the wind. Humidity 89%, which is just about as near to 100 as you can possibly get. Well, at the moment we're enjoying that 11% non-humidity as they head up towards Bushmills and indeed Portrush, and then cutting back. The Cushendall Road is the first of the categorised climb. There will be another one at Knockgilla, and then we will have an intermediate sprint with some bonuses therein before we head for the line. 219 kilometres in total. And there it is, after 219, is a reasonably technical finish at the end of the day. That's what they're all racing for. Some of the challenges have, of course, ended, unfortunately. Ryder Eschedal, of course, his team decimated, and Eschedal staying as principal, former winner, of course, but now 3 minutes and 26 down. Other big names as well to suffer yesterday as they came to sign on today. Perito Rodriguez, likewise, having a desperate run yesterday, 1 minute and 33 down. And so on sign-on today, nobody really was that confident of exactly what they were signing up for. Rain to the fore, most definitely, at least at the start, and indeed on part of today's course, which is reasonably long, 219 kilometres, there remains plenty of rain still about. The old day as they rolled out, and it wasn't that long before we had some riders who decided that it was a day for the breakaway, and why not? Starting just 7 minutes before 11 in the morning, local time. As you can see, not too many smiles, except amongst the Belgians and those from the Low Countries. They're kind of used to this sort of weather and indeed terrain, I guess. Largely flat, but with some bumps along the way. 2 categorised 4 climbs, so we will have a King of the Mountains, although not terribly mountainous. Off they went then, decided to stretch their legs. Neri Sotoli in the bright yellow with Andrea Fabi. We had Belkin's Martin Cialinghi, took a stage in the World Book Classics last year. Lotto Belisol also represented with Sander Armé. There he is in the red. 4th in Norway, by the way, the 28-year-old. And the Romero as well from Team Columbia. Good for them to have somebody up in the break. Went well, incidentally, on a day such as today, stage 10 of Langkawi, where Gardini it was that took that day, so he can keep up. Likewise, Fedi went close, 4th in Turkey, behind on the day that Viviani beat Cavendish for the 2nd time. Portrush then, and the MacDonald clan sending out pink horses to escort the peloton through the old MacDonald lands. And indeed their beautiful castle, sadly destroyed by fire a few years ago on one of the outcrops, providing another point of interest along the way. Apparently this washes off, so you can see the dappled grey underneath it. So yeah, don't get the veterinary societies involved. It'll all be okay.
Should be a reasonable sized bunch sprint finish at the finish.
Yes, I'm just hoping that everyone stays safe. The final corner being where it is, lead-out trains are going to be a difficult thing. So Marcel Kittel is going to have some company today. Expect the first 3 riders or 4 riders, maybe 5 at an absolute squeeze, and it would be a squeeze, off that corner to be the contenders. But so basically you've got to have dealt with your lead-out train by then, or dispatch them, or indeed hope that they're still assembled and nobody else can join it. It's going to be one for the elbows, I'm afraid, and there's going to be plenty of grazed wrists, knees and the rest of it by the end of this day, I'm afraid. Still 103.2 kilometres to go, and not a day you'd normally reach for a bicycle, but these guys are pros. I guess the Low Countries boys are probably going to be more comfortable here than some of those from warmer climates.
I guess that's the way we think about things in general. There's not too many people that are capable of getting to this professional level of being Grand Tour riders without being able to ride in the wet. But certainly some people get colder, they're more miserable when it's conditions like this than others. And particularly, I think you said already, Carlton, that Belgians, of course, and British are very used to these kind of conditions, Scandinavians as well. But you know, Australians and unless you're from Tasmania, and also Spanish and Italian.
We're qualifying ourselves as we go here.
Perhaps don't thrive so much in the conditions. And I always say that there's nobody that really truly loves riding in the rain. It's just that certain people think of Tour Shop as a good example. Just doesn't affect them quite as much as anybody else, and so their results end up better on those days.
Vincenzo Nibali famously does not mind inclement weather, and he showed that last year, of course, doing such great things even in the blizzards to go well. Just hoping in on some of our breakaway riders. Andrea Fedi, fourth on stage 5 of the Tour of Turkey when Viviani beat Cav, so he was in good company, and it means that the just looking at the moment, by the way, Romero, the bright yellow Foxwood for a moment. Let's talk about him then, shall we? Romero, 7th on stage 10 of the Tour of Langkawi, the day Gardini won. So we've got a couple of men who can deal with the quick stuff. I don't know, you never know. Stranger things have happened. There's Martin Chilinghi, stage in the World Ports Classic last year. He was third in the Paris-Roubaix in 2011, I think it was, a little while ago, the 36-year-old. Declared as a veteran these days. There is Fedi.
Sorry, I spoke to Martin this morning actually a little bit. Raced together sometimes, fairly often in the past. Back in the days when I used to race a bike, and he's been around for quite some time now, Chilinghi, 36 years of age. I remember him coming onto the scene as a skilled Shimano rider and surprising everybody by winning the Tour of Belgium from a lone break and holding on to that GC lead right the way through to the finish, beating the likes of Tom Bonan. Also won the overall of the Tour of Qinghai Lake in the same year, and he's turned into a very reliable domestique, which his team use him for the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France as well to help the climbers. But of course today we've got the King of the Mountains jersey up for grabs. That's not been allocated yet because there was no KOM point on yesterday's team time trial, so there's a couple of points on today's where they'll be sprinting to come onto the podium at the end of the day and receive the blue jersey.
Yes, sort of king of the speed bumps really. We don't have properly defined climbs, so they're called climbs but they're almost inclines today in the inclement weather. Categorised 4, which is the lowest category we can get, and yes, it's just essentially to award the jersey. 5 minutes and 31, you saw the virtual standings a few moments ago, but that gap is coming down. It was maxing out at 7:20. I think they're prepared to hold station with over 100 to go. It's not going to be the paciest day, save for the very finish, of course. And when we get there, as we've said at the top of the show, we're just hoping that everyone stays reasonably safe. Some of those already experiencing troubles, so if you get a puncture on there like today, it's relaying back or on by yourself. How can you relay by yourself? You use the cards. Simple as that. Dave Malakali, Mr. Badmeat, there he is, with 100 to go. It's a shame the weather has, it does keep this country green, of course, but today it's just put a slight damper on it, but it is absolutely spectacular. It is a very pretty part of the world, then.
It certainly is. I spent some time up here myself. A good friend of mine, Stephen Gallagher, who's been organising the stage. In fact, I think he might have designed this stage here today. He's been working extremely hard, but long-time teammate of mine, so I came over here a couple of times. I have to say more to enjoy myself off the bike than on it, but did bring the bike over also a couple of times. And there are some fantastic roads. Doesn't get the best of weather on average, but everybody knew that before we came over here. And I'm sure the rides and the spectators would love to have bright sunshine, but still looks pretty good from my view here.
Yes, very much so. Plenty of pink rain jackets, which have been handed out liberally, thank heaven, on display. And we're in Ballyboy as we speak. The coast here is gorgeous, and many people indeed have boats in this part of the world. A little bit further inland, of course, many people have horses. We've seen a combination of both today. It won't even be 1 horsepower by the end, but they'll be going very, very quickly. And yeah, I've seen that Giant are up front, clearly just helping out matters because they want to just work for Marcel Kittel. He will have the right to sprint as declared. He certainly will be starting off as favourite today, Dan, but his lead-out train are going to be hampered in these conditions, especially with that strange turn very, very late on.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but all these sprints at Grand Tours always are. But I think you're rightly say, Colton, Kittel head and shoulders above all of the rest of the sprinters here, really, when it comes to an out-and-out sprint at the end. He's been phenomenal for the last 12 months. He was great before that, but he really kind of dominated things and proceedings in the Tour de France last year and has started this year in exactly the same manner. So all things being well, we may well see him cross the line first, but there's a lot of people that might just challenge him on their day. not just about that final sprint to the line, of course. There's the positioning beforehand. Luck can sometimes play its part. He also needs to rely, of course, on his teammates. We've got riders like Buani from FDJ, who's been knocking on the door of a Grand Tour win for a couple of years now. Tyler Farrar, not had the best couple of years recently, but has started reasonably strong this year, not yet taken a win so far this season. But let's not count out Alessandro Patacchi, the rider in this bunch who's won the most stages of this race at 22 stages in all over his career. He's 40 years of age now, but should he win or even come second today, he will become the oldest person in the Giro to ever have the pink jersey. Also, should he finish ahead of Michael Matthews.
It's an earlier start. I was talking to Pat McQuaid, former UCI president over in Turkey. Just came back from the Tour of Turkey and bounced straight on to the Giro. So busy old time of things. And Pat was saying, yes, it did require an amendment, but approved by the UCI. To allow this to happen, but it meant that we started a day early, which is no great hardship, and we do get that extra rest day. And well, tomorrow night in Dublin, I guess party time. So looking forward to that. Hasn't run out of space just yet. Romero in the black, but Cialinghi wise to it and takes it. There we go. Checks over his shoulder, expecting to see Feddy, and it's Romero. So expect those two to be going toe-to-toe when it comes to the next one.
Yeah, the next one coming just before the intermediate sprint at 24 k's, another fourth category climb, not as long as that one. They are actually at 261 metres above sea level at this point that they are at now. The last one just 78 above sea level, then they have 24 kilometres into the city centre here of Belfast. Same finish line as yesterday, slightly different running than the team time trial, but yeah, the next one's going to be closely fought as well, I'm sure.
So, Martin Cialinghi, 36 years of age, checks over his shoulder and sees the young 24-year-old Romero, nearest man to him. I think he's going to hurl abuse at Feddy. Nobody likes somebody getting the better of them. Right now, Martin Cialinghi is our King of the Mountains classification leader with the first of the intermediate climbs. It's nice actually to have some different points available. I've noticed on some shorter tours, as we get confirmation of the points that they've just picked up in this competition, it is category 4, that they offer the same points no matter what the incline. And that's really unfair because it favours breakers. They get described as kings of mountains, but in fact they don't generally do many mountains. They just do the sort of little lumps along the way.
Didn't they, I'm not sure if it was, I probably should know this, but I'm not sure if it's the Giro or the Tour de France where they changed the point system so that it was biased towards the final climb up to the finish. In order that they got the better climbers that are going also for the GC and to the King of the Mountains jersey. I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. They've adjusted the points as well for sprint stages, so there's to make it more defined for sprinters. That's in effect here at the Giro d'Italia. So these are 50-point winning stages. In other words, you win 50 points as opposed to as low as 16 on the climbs. So stages 2, which we're here now, tomorrow in Dublin, and then stages 4, 7, 11, 13, 17, and the last one, 21, into Trieste. All designated as sprinting days, 8 of them in total, and there's 50 points up for grabs at the line. So it's worth the sprinters having a go as well, and not just sitting up just because you're a bit miffed that somebody's gone quicker than you out of the last corner. The yellow jersey into Harrogate, I think, is his main target at the start of the Grand Boucle. This is the Giro d'Italia, however, and this year starting in Ireland. Looking at Thomas de Ghent. Thomas is a fantastic climber when he knows the climb, and tactically he's got some nous as well. It was a brilliant stage victory up the Stelvio for him. No such mountains here today, but nonetheless, certainly one to watch when it kicks up.
Well, he can be, and of course, finishing the 3rd overall in this race, he was climbing supremely well that year, but yeah, big surprise to me to see him already dropped yesterday in the team time. So he came in 22 seconds down and we're 17 seconds down on his teammates, but yeah, you know, I wonder whether he might have designs on another top 10 finish here, but I think, of course, with Uran in the team, everything's really focused on the Colombian.
Yeah, we had some big failures yesterday, not least Joaquin Rodriguez. His team, Katusha team, had a shocking time trial. And
I wonder what you were going to say then.
You keep it to yourself, because it sounds like your mind is wandering. Anton also wandered, unfortunately, didn't he? Straight off the back. What was that about?
Well, again, I guess it's a team with a real out-and-out lead. I mean, there's a couple of teams, thinking perhaps along the lines of Astana, who have got a couple of people they'll keep protected, and I'm talking about Scarponi and also the young Italian Aru, and possibly even Landa as well, who's been going very well recently, whereas the likes of Omega Pharma Quickstep with Oran and, of course, Katusha with Rodriguez, and then again, also Movistar with Quintana, they've got a very, very clear, defined leader of the team, and they'll do everything they can to make sure that they don't lose time, and even if that means other people losing time.
The suspicion yesterday was that Rodriguez had an issue. I don't know, I still haven't got confirmation of it because we just couldn't get to talk to them. Katusha's a sort of strange one, some blokes with radios in their ears standing outside. It's very difficult. But yes, I believe, personally speaking, that something along the lines of one of their principal riders, be it Moreno, but certainly Rodriguez, if he'd had an issue, they would have waited for him. Was it just that they were terrible?
I think it pretty much was. I mean, they did have problems with Gusev, wasn't it, who kind of went straight on into a barrier around one of the corners, and they waited for him. Maybe that was a mistake, but it certainly wouldn't have cost them the time that they lost their other rivals. I mean, they did have the worst of the wear, let's give them that, but at the same time, there are other teams who finished some way ahead of them that had exactly the same conditions. So I think a real disappointment for Katusha, and you know, it's not the end of the world, and it's a 3-week race, but to be already over a minute down on some of your key rivals is a lot to make up.
We're just welcoming you from around the world. It's Sportsnet in Canada. Thanks to Ryan Johnson for reminding me of that. And wherever you happen to find us, you are extremely welcome. Lars Yttingbank is just getting its way back through the cars. It's oh my goodness, check that out. You didn't want to be standing next to that, did you? No. A lot of standing water today. None at the finish because it's bone dry. I know we keep telling you keep saying, look, stop going on about it, it looks terrible, but no, it is going, and thankfully it's dry, because with the road furniture from 3Ks out, kilometres, and indeed that horrible turn with 350 metres to go, you need it dry, frankly, and gosh, it looks like somebody's put a gel filter on the camera here. His Kleenex is going to be full, squozen out before you know it, the cameraman. At least a backward view keeps the lens spottish free. There you go. Astana are also coming up today. They've got some interest in this, but it's GC, as far as they're concerned, just looking after the likes of Aru and Scarponi. Probably Aru is their main choice. David Apollino is the man we haven't mentioned from AG2R Le Mondial, who can go well when it gets a bit rough.
Yeah, he's quite a fast guy, Apolloni. He was actually made his pro debut, I believe, as a teammate of myself at Cervelo in the Tour of Ireland in 2009, I think it was, as a stagiaire. Had some very impressive results as an amateur, came on board full-time for Cervelo the following year, then I think went to Sky for a couple of years, and now he's with the AG2R team. He's not on the same level as Kittel, and perhaps a level below Buani and Viviani at the moment, but certainly on his day, if he gets the right run, the right positioning on the way into the finish, he could be looking at a potential top 5, and I think it's he that they will be riding for today.
Yeah, and I think there's the key. It's about position, and indeed, just when you time your run, don't for a moment think that Giant Shimano are going to be allowed to boss things out there, and there'll be riders trying to break into their pace. We spoke to Ben Swift at the top of the day, but I think it's a sort of a day for Eddie Said Balboas and Hart, if he's got his sprinting head on.
Yeah, I'm interested to see actually who they ride for today. You can see in the background of your screen there, Team Sky in the predominantly black kit with the blue helmets. Bernie Eisel, the very experienced Austrian, just pulling over to one side there. But as I said, Carl, 2 very fast men here today. I believe, in fact, I know that Edvald Bossenhagen's contract is up at the end of the year, so he might well be wanting to get his own results. Ben Swift, though, has been on fantastic form. 2 wins in races already this year. Very, very impressive win in the Tour of the Basque Country. 3rd in Sanremo, so Ben Swift can go very, very well indeed himself. So they've got kind of 2 options there.
Yeah, I think
even 3 really. Yeah, you've got CJ Sutton, but he's coming back from injury. I don't think on quite his best form yet. But another very fast man.
Yeah, and they've got the likes of Bernie Eisel to grind out some advantages. A modest train. We'll see how they shape up when we get into town. That's Belfast, which we are returning to today.
think after 2 hours the average speed was about 42 k's per hour. That dipped down to 40.6 after 3 hours. So I guess it depends what you call slow, really. It's quite hard to go at 40 k's an hour on your bike outside on your own. But these guys, of course, professionals, very, very comfortable at this kind of pace. Cameron Meyer, the Australian rider that is currently leading the peloton and making sure that this breakaway's time gap is contained, and it will gradually come down between here and the finish. Currently 4 minutes and 50 seconds is the advantage that these four hold over that bunch.
Oh dear, we've got some low cloud as well, which means that we're going to be relying on the motorcycles for a while. We're the aptly named Waterfoot right now. And yeah, you can see the crowds, they're just not dismayed by the weather at all. Put the jacket on, take the jacket off. It's a bit of a rain jacket hokey-cokey going on at the moment. That was Paul Polanski, I think, 23-year-old Neo Pro. And just thinking, I'm going to just turn the pro and look at this day. Breakaway still up the road, and in fact we've had a few bumps and bruises. There's been a few stops along the way. Plenty of time for them to catch them down. What do you think strategy is going to be amongst the teams?
I think that the other sprint teams are very much going to leave things to Giant Shimano in the earlier stages in order to try and save their own lead-out trains as many people as possible for the final 3 or 4 kilometres. In fact, I posed that question to Marcel. I said, do you think, given that your form over the last 12 months or longer than that will mean that there's more pressure on you and your team to control things, similar to how we used to see HTC with Cavendish when he was in his unbeatable days? They were really left to do everything to pull brakes back, and the other team sat back and then perhaps tried to outdo them at the finish, which more often than not they didn't succeed in doing. But I think that could be the case these days also with Marcel Kittel, given that Greipel and Cavendish aren't here. I don't think they're going to get too much help on the front from other teams, apart from the team with the pink jersey leading the general classification on the flat days, and so that will dwindle their lead-out train a little bit. But they've got some very strong guys here. Of course, SDJ are going to be determined as well to try and nip a stage for Nasabu Arne, and also Limiani, a fantastic form, another guy who was so close last year and just slightly outdone by very, very informed Mark Cavendish, and he'll be looking to make him in this year and take his first victory at the Giro.
Yeah, the sprint's about hard time, I think, really. As we were thinking about broken collarbones, Dan Martin, of course, going down yesterday. It's a clean break, you'll be pleased to know. That's a good thing, by the way. It's a clean break for Dan Martin. Couldn't get surgery in Belfast yesterday. Apparently there's a waiting list, and cyclists don't take priorities. Why should they? It is a National Health Service after all, but he's booked into Dublin tomorrow for surgery at 4 in the afternoon, if you're interested. They are. I spoke to Sean Kelly earlier on today, who confirmed that...
Name dropping.
Yeah, exactly. Who confirmed it is a clean break. We mentioned Andre Greipel was getting back to form. Greipel probably would have come here, but he had one of the most awful ways of damaging your collarbone. It was actually a rip. So in other words, he took the cartilage, was actually a blood-bearing cartilage, incidentally, away from its joint, and so that's proper surgery. And eventually, that bone will atrophy due to a lack of blood supply, ultimately. So, yes, but he's remarkably riding in pain, and on the bike, was in Turkey, but not coming here, unfortunately, just saving himself for the Tour de France and hoping to get back into shape there. Likewise, Mark Cavendish, he'd had, of our sprinters who have been a bit crook, he had tummy upset, and as a result for him, that meant that he couldn't actually take in any food, and so as a result had to pull out when did he pull out? Gent-Wevelgem, yeah, very late on.
One race, I think, before that.
Yeah, it was on the morning of, actually, because he just couldn't get the calories in, so it was impossible to race. But he basically, it was just coming straight back out, both ends, in fact, if you're having a lunch. Or indeed breakfast in Canada, apologies for that. 73.6 kilometres to go, so it's a hard life being a sprinter. Giacomo Nizzolo for Trek Factory Racing, he and Danilo Hondo, they are brutes. Hondo is a guy who's capable of kicking a hole in a barn door, let alone a packed bunch in a sprint, and I think Hondo will do well for Nizzolo, and if Nizzolo's nowhere to be seen because it's going to get rough, Hondo might have a go himself.
Quite the same level as Kittel, of course, but also a level below Viviani and Buani.
Well, I think it's going to get rough, and I think we might have a surprise today. And so I wouldn't mind seeing Nizzolo go just to sort of prove everybody wrong. You'll see it'll be Kittel, Viviani, Buani doing it as always, but we always like a little side bet. It's no disrespect to the great names who've earned their position at the forefront of the bookies' minds, at least when it comes to the quick days. But we also like to give you the opportunity of having a little side bet. Nizzolo might be that kind of man.
Baden Cook, the former Australian professional rider, saying on Twitter just a few moments ago, was just retired from Orica Green Edge at the end of last year, saying that quite telling that Cameron Meyer is doing the work on the front for Orica, because that means that they're saving their quicker men for the sprint lead-out. He thinks they're very, very focused on trying to get that win for Michael Matthews today. Continue what's been an incredible run for them over the last couple of weeks, starting, of course, with Simon Gerrans for this kind of second part of the season after the tournament, national championships, etc. But Simon Gerrans won the Ace Master Liège, Michael Albertini won 3 stages out of 6 at the Tour de Rome. Just show them. Yeah, that's breezy.
There is the line that they are tracing, and it's pick-up time for water bottle duties. Plenty of them inside the rain jacket by the looks of things. Plenty of room. There is a record, incidentally, for bidons, which are water bottles carried within a jersey. I can't remember what it is. Can you?
No, this is something
it wasn't attractive, but I think it was about 23 before the jersey split. But then again, different materials, it's a bit of a so.
That was back in the day as well, wasn't it? Everyone seems to have aero jerseys these days, much more difficult to squeeze that.
Exactly, I think it might have even been in the woolen jersey day. It might have been David Duffield, we'll see. Daniele Colli, just wrestling with the poly bag. Yes, and finally getting it right. One of the most sought after, incidentally, rain capes last year was the bright yellow rain cape that they donned. They've gone black this year. It's quite sober, really. Considering they're extra loud in the dry, why should they be any different in the wet? Spring in a situation such as that. Good on it. Yes, along the way, it looks like some of the... Do you know what the Irish do brilliantly? I think it's probably because the weather is inclement on a regular basis. They do cosy very well, and some of the inns and pubs and hostelries along the way, absolutely spectacular. So, Conmar, you'll forgive my pronunciation on occasion, but that's my best shot. It's not going to get any better, so I'll just dumsky now. Through town they go. Yeah, keeping a boat in this part of the world is not as expensive as the rest of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, or indeed further south as well. But I mind you, they are pretty expensive down in the Republic as well. Yeah, if you are minded to make this your home, then boating could well be your fun. I imagine the submarines might come to the fore today if this rain goes on much longer. 62.6 kilometres to go. And thank you, incidentally, for all of your kind thoughts. If you'd like to join the conversation, then it's Carlton Kirby, CarltonKirby, or Daniel Lloyd 1, DANIEL LLOYD. So 3 L's with a number 1. Good to see that they've adopted the pink. Although one of our technicians last night was spotting a very florid version. It did go down well, the bar he happened to be in. There you go. Plenty of it around.
Yeah, it certainly is. There's all sorts of animals that have been that are completely pink. Horses, dogs. I saw a very wet dog the other day, and it's very pink as well.
Got to tell you, there was actually a flock of sheep here that were pink. Unfortunately, it wasn't permanent. And so, after about 20 minutes, there weren't pink sheep anymore. It was just like a pink field. So, anyway, we haven't seen it. There you go, you'll have to believe it. 61.8 kilometres to go, 4 minutes and 24. Absolutely solid at the moment, that gap.
It is, yeah, but all contained, I think, very well. The riders here are all having race radios, so they'll be getting constant updates from the team car behind as to what the time gap is. Orica Green Edge, a supremely strong team. They won't be letting this pink jersey go in the next couple of days, in my opinion. So It will come down slowly but surely. 4.5 minutes with 60k to go. Very, very manageable. They've got Giant Shimano up there working with them as well. Tom Stamschneider, incidentally, is the rider from that team. The Dutch rider doing the work on the front. He will be joined later by a couple more. And of course, when it comes to the final sprint towards the finish, they've got a pretty strong team, Giant Shimano, for the to support Marcel Kittel. Bert de Backer is here. Simon Gettinger more for the breakaways and climbing parts, but Tobias Ludvigsen, perhaps not too experienced in the sprint lead-outs, but a very strong guy with a good engine in the time trials. Luka Mezec, who came close to victory here last year and has had a couple of victories at the Volta Catalunya in March. Tom Stamsner is on the front, Albert Tim, and Tom Valers. Now, he's a very good lead-out man. You might remember him as the rider that crashed on the run-in and some people thought was caused by Mark Cavendish at Tour de France last year. So he's here as well.
I never thought it was caused by Mark Cavendish, but plenty of people did, particularly from the Low Countries, and it got a bit nasty for a while, and everyone was told to just pack it in and move on. By Tom Reams, on my hand. There you go. So we have these 4 men in the breakaway. They're doing a decent job of keeping themselves out there as we head down the coast. Nice to see one of the local riders who's actually made it out here himself. Got a nice little promontory position. I love the granite houses here, some of the old stone ones. I'm not talking about these sort of some of the bungalows, which really are not very attractive, but some of the older stone buildings are absolutely glorious. Stones here, why not use it? Why go for, I don't know, white sheeting and stucco? There you go. Just a problem with me and stucco. Let's talk about the sprinters. David Apollino, we mentioned from AG2 Le Mondial. Andrea Giocattoli have got Manuel Belletti. Now, in mixed company, he might go well. Bargnani, likewise, have got Battaglin and also Ruffoni, who has gone very quick. He was very quick in the Middle East, wasn't he, in Oman? Very different weather.
Yeah, third on stage in Oman. They've also got Colbrelli, who is just Mr. Consistency, who is unable, it seems, to find the top place on the podium. I think this year he has had something like 13 top fives and never won a race. In fact, he hasn't won a race in his career. He's still a young rider, and he would dearly love, of course, to be able to do that in his home Grand Tour. Going on from there, you've already mentioned Jets de Bold from Belgium a little bit earlier. Tyler Farrar from Garmin-Schulte will be their designated sprinter, and will be really looking to lift the spirits by getting a result today. Roberto Ferrari is the man from Lampre Merida, of course, who won a stage 2 years ago, but perhaps better known for taking Cavendish out in the Danish stage 3 of that 2012 race. Lotte Berzel, Kenny de Haas will be doing his best, but more of a kind of classics rider with a strong finish, in my view. Won a couple of races up there in Belgium this year. Ventoso from Movistar won a stage in 2012 also, when Matt Goss and Mark Cavendish both decked it on the last corner and took advantage.
He did. We've got some veterans here as well. Francesco Chicchi from Neri Sertoli in the bright yellow. Alessandro Patacchi usually works as a lead-out man and part of the lead-out train for, of course, Mark Cavendish for Omega Pharma's Quick Step. Mark's not here, but Patacchi certainly is and might be turning the clock back, as Chicchi will hope to do as well. The man they call Bling, Michael Matthews from Orica Greenedge, could go very well. Just check this out. When they run out of beach, it gets a bit sad. But they got plenty. There are some tidal race courses in Ireland, by the way, and it looks like they've made a turn just about here before it starts getting a little bit peaky. Hold your horses, please. Thank you very much. The sprinters won't be doing that, but just look at the welcome that they are getting here. It's fantastic. You see some of the riders waving, not to the crowd incidentally, but just warning that there's street furniture around the place, of which there are plenty. Horses to the fore. The Irish, of course, famously love their horses. Here we get to the Cheltenham Festival in the United Kingdom, well, Great Britain, I should say. Down there in Cheltenham. Oh, hello, and I'm wondering if that is certainly one of the principals from Giant. We'll find out in a moment. I don't think it's Kittel, but we'll have a look. Looked a bit like Ludvigsen to me, but we'll have a go in a moment. Just back to our sprinters, Michael Matthews. He's known as Bling. He does sport the old diamond-encrusted earrings. Like them or not, he takes them very quickly to the line. Tony Laurel is the only one I could really pick out from Team Europe guy. Anyone else you spotted for them?
No, I think he will be their sprinter, but again, he's kind of a second-tier sprinter. He was up there in a couple of stages of Romandy, but there weren't really well, I said they were out-and-out sprinters. Their kit was there, but got dropped on the climbs preceding the finish, so didn't contest any sprints really in that race. But yeah, I think it will be Urel from Team Europe.
It's incidentally quite even. I think Litzola might have a good old run. We'll see. 56.6 kilometres to go, and well, somebody's been busy with the plastic sheeting. Good boys. Nice to see that it's been embraced by all of the counters here. It really is very much a coming together for this great sporting event. On an annual basis, this is second only to the Tour de France in terms of global reach and indeed global significance. You have the Olympic Games and you have the World Cup, which happen for football, that is, for every 4 years. However, there is the Tour de France and the Giro d'Italia happen every single year, and the Giro d'Italia is a massive event, and it's all credit to Ireland that it has been brought here. A process which started with Michele Accaroni, recently departed, of course, the head of RCS, the organisers. A process back in 2011, 2012, I think they had their first proper meetings face-to-face after the approach. But great that he managed to deliver this, and in fact Ireland as well. Total embrace from both, so a kiss on both cheeks from our Italian friends, I think you can take. You good Irish people, fantastic that you've got it, and it's a great atmosphere that you are creating. I mean, just look at this.
Yeah, it's really embraced. I think every time that a race like this starts abroad, people really look forward to seeing the colour and the peloton going past, and of course, the racing and the competition. As well, it's a great atmosphere waiting for the helicopters going overhead and the anticipation of the breakaway riders and the peloton coming through afterwards. And as you said, Carlton, it seems like pretty much everyone's out in the streets watching this stage today. It's even in the middle of the countryside, we had some pretty decent crowds, and I'm sure coming in towards the finish here in Belfast, it will be sort of along similar lines to yesterday, where of course we had a huge number of people on the roads. I haven't actually seen any estimated figures from yesterday so far, have you?
I heard 300,000, but that is unconfirmed. They usually leave it strangely to the police to tell you, and they haven't issued figures, but that was the ballpark, I think it was Radio Ulster. But anyway, Glenarm Castle we saw a few moments ago. Time to go back to the car, hang on, have a chat, save a bit of energy, why don't you? Might need it a little bit later, we shall see. Yeah, Glenarm Castle we just saw a few moments ago. In fact, as we came through Glenarm, had you cared to look very closely, you might have seen some of the famous salmon in this part of the world. There is salmon fishing that takes place. I don't think you're allowed floating flies. You're only allowed sinkers in this part of the world. Or is it the other way around? Some coarse fisher will tell me. So here we are. This is what we're dealing with. See those GPM points? They are categorised climbs. That's where we are now. Still one to come, but I'm taking a run up to this one. It's knocking something. I'll get there. I've just lost my notes. It's gone off the screen, so you'll have to forgive me. 54 point.
I'll let you try that.
Thought you might. There's no help coming. Usually I get some kind of life ring being thrown to me by Dan Lloyd, but not on this occasion. There is Rigoberto Urán.
Who put the sprint there?
Yes. Could you put it in Tiny Town or something like that? Easy to say.
Somebody would tell us that not Nagulia.
Good.
I'm sorry.
4 minutes to 8. I bet it's not going to go on. Vote, please, on Twitter. Carlton Goby, Daniel Lloyd 1. Plenty of you writing in. Thank you very much, by the way, for Stu McLean, Dave Boyle, Danny Moriarty, Mark Moorhead, and the rest of you. We'll come to some of your questions in just a few moments. 4 minutes and 5, though, is the break. And these are the Brave Four. Lots of work being done by Giant. Why are they doing it? Because they're not the leaders. It's because they're setting up Marcel Kittel. You've got to earn the right to sprint. Astana were deemed not to have earned the right to sprint late on in the Tour of Turkey on the final stage. In fact, Gardini, who had been hiding within the pack, was taken to the side of the road, I think is a fair way of expressing it, by Viviani and Mark Cavendish, who shared the spoils, because basically their teams had worked hard. You have to earn it in order to have that run, as far as the sprinters are concerned. Do some effort.
2,
You what, sorry?
Do
1.
some effort winding in the breakaway riders if you want to sprint.
Yeah, I mean, you can try and play it clever and save your men for as long as possible, and I think you can kind of afford to do that when there is a sprinter who, like Kittel, like Cavendish, like Greipel, if they haven't got those other rivals there, are deemed, head and shoulders above the rest, and that the rest are going to be fighting potentially for second place. It means that you can save your lead-out men just for the final 3, 4, 5 kilometres, which can be, make a very big difference. And let's not forget also that Marcel Kittel comes here with pretty much a team built around him. They haven't got many climbers on the team, whereas we look at the likes of Elliot Viviani from Cannondale. He's got Ivan Basso on the team, number 61, who's won this race twice overall before. They bring along with them a couple of riders to support him in the mountains, so it's not an out-and-out lead-out squad. This one certainly is, though. There's Brett Lancaster riding for Greenwich, who's been doing some work on the front, and they've got a supreme lead-out team here, hence why they were so fast on the flat yesterday.
Marcel Kittel, you see him sort of centre of your picture. He's got a couple of teammates in front of him looking very grizzled. Is that a word? Yeah, I think so. Bear-like anyway, certainly, in these conditions. And our Italian champion just handing over a rain jacket. I think some of them are kind of warming up just ever so slightly. That's Dan Martin, who went down on one yesterday, been replaced by grippier ones in town, which is good. 12.3 kilometres to go, 1:05. They're holding out here, They're doing a decent job.
Hovered around that same time gap now for 3 or 4 kilometres. In fact, since the intermediate sprint, I think it might have actually gone up very slightly. I think it's still very much under control. Cannondale now the people on the front of the peloton doing the controlling. Of course, for Elliot Viviani, who you rightly said, Carlton, was extremely impressive in the Tour of Turkey, which finished very recently. 2 stage wins there ahead of Mark Cavendish, so he'll be full of confidence and really desperate to take his first win in this race.
First win in this race, and fantastic result on a Grand Tour it will be for the young man. Incidentally, I saw them celebrate in Turkey because I was on site with the team. They were sharing our hotel. They were allowed a little sip of champagne each night he won, and it really was a little sip, like a thimble, but they absolutely loved it. It was a huge treat, and it looks like they are not tired of success at all. Viviani and his Cannondale team in the lime green towards the front. I can tell you that Kiki is back in. He's been helped here, but how much that has cost him, I do not know. He's got a rest now. A hard thing to do with only 11.4 to go, but it is doable. And we said adrenaline is a funny thing, and Kiki might be there at the end.
Yeah, sometimes it's not just a case of having the strength to get to the front, but having the room to get to the front as well. Hopefully when the road widens out here, he'll have some space down the side. His teammates can then bring him up towards the front of the bunch again. It will have cost him a little bit of strength in his legs, but I still wouldn't rule Kiki out of a decent result today.
Most definitely. 56 seconds now with 11 to go. I'm just wondering what Fedi's got here for Neri Satoli. He's clearly the man who is the fastest of all of these guys, although Arme can go reasonably quick, and so can Romero, the Colombian, who sometimes finds himself in places that perhaps you'd think he shouldn't, not least that day we mentioned where he lost out to Gardini in the Tour of the Langkawi, so you never know, stranger things have happened. I think though the sprinters that are here today will certainly have him sorted. Over 5 hours in the saddle on a day that you wouldn't normally reach for the mic.
No, it's a long time to spend on a bike in conditions like this. As I said, the neutralised zone as well, so it's going to be a long day. 10 kilometres to go, and that peloton's going to be cruising along at over 50 k's per hour from here to the finish. So in around about 12 minutes' time, we're going to see the winner cross the finish line here in Belfast, and what an exciting finish we're in store for here.
10 kilometres to go. The bannerman and our data agree with each other, but right now these four have still got 53 seconds. Now the peloton need to be careful, because if the sprinters teams start looking at each other, don't want to take over the pace, the GC boys aren't going to want to run this one into the ground. They're happy for everyone just to stay together, frankly, and so if you have got some desire today to take it as a sprint team, you better get to the nose, and that's what's happening to Cannondale, and that's why Ellie Viviani is here. My pick for the day, Marcel Kittel is for Dan, the fastest man around at the moment, many say. I guess the season will prove whether that is the case or not. And Cannondale are still being left out there to hang, I'm afraid. Who else is going to join the fun?
Well, Cannondale with 3 men on the front. I think if I'm a quick step also coming up there about Pauls, the Belgian or Dutch rider, I think it's coming up. And they said have got Pataki in the team, who's a really, really good sprinter in his career, but has said that he won't be sprinting on this occasion. They're just here to keep Rigoberto Urán in a great position on the GC, but let's wait and see whether that holds true.
Well, that policeman has got nerves of steel. He wasn't waving a pennant, and he wasn't waving his arms. He was keeping himself solid. They all got through safely. That's the first of the street furniture challenges that we've got today, and we've shed one of our breakaway riders. Romero it is that's going backwards on the curve and picking it up. They've got a little bit of belief here with 9.1. It's almost like a game of cat and mouse right now. The pack will be coming through fairly shortly, but Romero of Colombia has gone backwards. Armé takes up the pace. Can they possibly deliver this? 42 seconds is what they've got.
Still a tall order, I'm afraid, for the 3 remaining breakaway riders up here. Chelengi, Fedi and Armé doing a great job. They've been out there, of course, all day from kilometre 3. It's been a long day in the saddle for them. And it's always surprising just how quickly that gap just disappears when these lead-out trains get going. Up 60 k's per hour, of course, it's been away all day. It's very difficult to ride at over 50 k's per hour. So it is tumbling down, 33 seconds, 5 seconds taken off in the time it's taken me to say that. So it's not going to be long, I don't think, until this bunch has that breakaway in its sights.
The power, the delivery, the demeanour, the will, and the man. Cannondale are up front with Eli Viviani. Giant Shimano have done a lot of the pacing today just to keep control of this race and tee it up for Marcel Kittel. He's fantastic, we know that. And this is a roll of the dice for Martin Cialinghi. He's going off. Wants a bit more pace into this. It's down to 30 seconds. They'd have to have about 3k to go with that to have any kind of chance. But even then, after a long day with tired legs, lactic acid just started to make itself known in the thighs. Pain we're talking, and they've got plenty of that. 8k to go, and here they come. They are onto them.
Yeah, I think Cannondale have done their research coming into this race. They seem to know the course very well coming in here towards Belfast, and they're really putting the hammer down here on the front. And that's going to start to cause problems in the peloton behind. You can see the effect it's had after just one corner stringing out, and that's even kind of exemplified really when it's wet on the road as well. People at the back having to slow down even more. Oh, we're going to puncture. Who's that?
We'll find out. I know it's one of the Bianchi boys. I beg your pardon, it's not. Oh, dearie me. That is Van Enden. He's a decent time trialist. They will be thinking of Jetzer Bol today, Belkin, although they have got a man in the break, Cialinghi, so they've been not forced to actually go for this. Right now, the man who is going for it is the teammate of Van Enden. Out front, Martin Cialinghi is having some fun with us. 30 seconds with 7 to go. Could this be a famous one for Cialinghi? I don't think so. But with all the street furniture, the chops and changes of direction, Cannondale have hit the front, and here comes Sky. They're mobbing the road. They want a piece of the tarmac, and they want to stay safe as well.
Yeah, Cannondale still dominating things in front. Almost their entire complement you can see in the lime green from the overhead shots there. Kind of playing into the hands in some ways to Giant Shimano. I haven't seen too much of them so far. Of course, they've been controlling things on the front. They must be collecting themselves together in... Just trying to look at the overhead shots. Can't see too much sign. We've got a few of them down on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. They're certainly playing things calm at the moment.
Well, they are, and maybe too calm. We'll see if the street furniture has an impact. Cialinghi's still out of sight. There you go, 10 pro wins for this man. But he's had some decent ones as well, some terrific finishes in some terrific races. 3rd place in the Paris-Roubaix 3 years ago, and he is going for this. 30 seconds he's holding with 6.1 kilometres to go. He's going into time trial mode. He's got to think, if you like, of the velodrome, so to speak, if you know your Paris-Roubaix. And here he goes, 6 to go right now. Mouth agape like a basking shark. Can he possibly do it? Stranger things have happened. I think it's a very long shot, but we wish him the best.
Well, I think when I spoke to him this morning, I doubt very much if he thought he was going to end up having a day like he is today. He's already got that King of the Mountains jersey, which we'll see him wear on the podium when he comes in towards the finish. But he's doing a fantastic ride, holding a storming peloton. The time's not coming down quite as quickly as I was expecting. I still think he will be caught before they get to the finish line, possibly with about 2 or 3 Ks to go, once this thing gets really wound up to top speed.
Cialinghi, the shortest route through this, taking the left-hand bend, tight on the corner, but here comes comes Nizzolo, Hondo and Trek Factory Racing with their white accented sleeves. They've got big plans for today. Can they pull something of a surprise? Giant Shimano are there as well, and I've got to tell you that Marcel Kittel is in a fantastic position, but they're picking this up. Wins for Viviani mean an awful lot. They've just got belief, frankly, Cannondale.
I can see Tyler Farrar, the American rider from Garmin Sharp, on the wheel there of Elio Viviani. He'll be looking to make up for a disastrous start for that team yesterday. Could be in for a podium if he gets things right towards the end. It's going to be a long shot for the win. The red rider on his wheel, I think, is probably Kenny De Haas from the Lotto Belisol team. Cannondale have been kind of taken over now by Trek, haven't they?
They have. It's all for Nizzolo today. My outside pick, and it's Hondo that's in a terrific position. Now, he is a battering ram, and he will be the last man to go before Nizzolo is unleashed. 2.9 kilometres to go. Now, look at the pace. They know, and some others do, that you've got to be in the first 5 riders on the last corner, and it's that they're racing for in the first instance, and then if you happen to be in the right place at the right time, you can go for the line.
Davide Apollonio in the brown of 82 eyes, also hovering about, doesn't have much in the way of team support. Giant Shimano still playing things very, very calm. They've got the experience. Kittel will know when he wants his team to go towards the front. 5 of them there. Kittel actually just losing the wheel of his teammates there at the moment, but this looks to be when they're deciding to make their move. Simon Yechter, the German bearded rider, on the front, still in his rain jacket, starting this final lead out with 2.3 Ks to go.
Yeah, Kittel in the frame. Trek Factory Racing are also here. Tyler Farrar is on his own, but he's in a good place. He's right next to Marcel Kittel with that blue jersey, so you never know. The American might deliver today. 2.1 kilometres to go. The magic number on your screen will say 0.3. The graphic will be gone by then. It'll only be 300 metres or so to go, and everyone wants a piece of that. Little turn, absolutely. You wouldn't even notice it if you walked by it during the day, but it's oh so important. And look at the street furniture, unguarded there, save for 3 plastic cones. That's a dangerous moment. The road wet and dry in places as well. Crown of the road dry, but that's not where you want to be. You want to be far over to the correct side of the road to take the turn with ease. And Bouhanni's here. He's got a couple of teammates in blue. This could be a great day for Nasser Bouhanni and Francis Lejeune. There they are. They're going to play this game, but so unfortunately for them are the big players today. And Marcel Kittel and Giant Shimano are in place with 1,500 to go.
But has he got enough people in front of him, Kitty? He's only got 2 teammates left here, and that's not enough with 1,300 metres still to go. FDJ in the blue come towards the front. Bouhanni slips into position. Haven't seen too much of Bling Matthews, but he is there, around about 10th position. And in fact, I'm not sure that, that is him in the aerodynamic helmet, just getting onto the wheel of one of the Giant Shimano riders. Swift's up there, Farrar's up there, all the people that we expected to be there are there. Edvald Bosenhagen as well. Viviani, we're going to see a huge sprint in 1 minute's time.
Underneath the front row, it's Edvald Bosenhagen that comes up towards the front for Sky. Ben Swift is behind him. They still haven't decided how this one's going to pan out. Bling is there for Matthews, for Orica Greenwich. 800 metres, we're nearly at the turn, the big turn. You've got to be in the top 5 if you're going to make it. They all know it. There's Viviani in the green, hoping into sight. He's fighting for position. He's with Kittel right now. Is he going to take the turn in the right place? Viviani versus Kittel on the turn. This is it coming up right now. That's the 500 metre marker. It's at 350. Bling is in a great place. Matthews, 400 now. Bouhanni gets himself into place. Here's the big turn right now. Stay safe, everybody, for goodness sake. And now turn the taps on. It's the race for the line. It's anybody's game, this. Viviani's there. So is Bouhanni. So is Tyler Farrar by the barriers in the blue. Oh, and Matthews picks it up. He's going for this one. He doesn't want to ride behind anyone else, but right now he's riding behind Bouhanni. And Kittel comes to the fore. The big man. Oh, there's none bigger at the moment. And he proves it, finishing in front of Bouhanni. What a sprint that was. They all stayed safe. They all delivered. We love this race. So do the Irish. Thank you, Belfast. And thank you, Marcel. What a finish that was. Absolutely superb. Well, the cream rises to the top. And at the moment, there is just one man who holds that position. When he rides well. And today, he has delivered. Marcel Kittel taking the day. Look at that smile. Greedy for success. And why wouldn't you be? Well, all the right men were there at the right time. there's Michael Matthews handing over his congratulations. He will be in the leader's jersey tonight. He finished high enough up the order, and courtesy of the time differences when it comes to the team time trial. So he's going to be our leader. The blue jersey is on the back of Martin Cilingi, courtesy of those King of the Mountains splits he took. Kittel takes it ahead of Gohani. It's solo for Trek Factory Racing in third place, ahead of Eli Viviani, who just got boxed in very late on. Roberto Ferrari in fifth place. Belletti, Swift, Matthews, Apollino and Tyler Ferrara. It's a wet one yet again. Heading for Dublin, it's stage 3 of this, the Giro d'Italia, 97th running of the great race. 187 kilometres ahead of the riders today. We're a bit fearful, particularly about the end of the run. More on that in a moment. Well, that's where we're passing by, but as you can see, the weather is grizzly once again. It's raining, temperatures about 11 Celsius, humidity says 87%, but it may as well say 100. It's raining throughout the course right now. They started in heavy rain. It was sunny at the beginning down in the Republic, and we are waiting in Dublin with rain falling as we speak. It's not quite as heavy as it has been throughout the course, though, and we are hoping that that's the way it stays, because there's a very nasty chicane at the end of today. Let's see the course that they are dealing with. This is what it looks like as they head from Armagh down the coast, through Dundalk, the Skerries, and then it is Dublin. Yes, so into the south of Ireland today, crossing the border, just north of Dundalk, and 2 climbs, as we mentioned, over the run of 187 kilometres. They have dealt with the Market Hill Summit and Fuse Forest. And I've got to tell you that a certain Mr. Cilingi has been quite greedy. He likes that blue jersey and he wants it for himself. He's going to hold on to it until Wednesday, courtesy of the fact that he's taken both of the intermediate climbs today. So we had a little bit of sunshine earlier on as they signed on. That must have been a great relief to absolutely everyone. Arashiro, the Japanese champion, just finding a spot for his name. Yeah, the crowd, as ever, just mobbing us, which is superb. Very warm of heart, even if the weather has not been kind to us. Well, even as the signings were going on, the clouds as well as the crowds, have started to roll in. Good to see Tinkoff Saxon enjoying the limelight, and indeed Mr. Roche as well. Starting with Cilingi.
Martin Cilingi, great to be in the blue jersey, but we're hoping for some blue sky today as well.
Yeah, definitely. It would be nice to have some blue skies here. I know it's not very common, but we're hoping for it, yeah.
Do you have a plan to get out?
Tomorrow, and we race once again in Bari the day after. So Armagh was the rollout, and as you can see, the clouds burst, and we got a good old dousing. It seems to be familiar. We've had ill clement weather both in Denmark, you may remember when we had the start there, and of course last year in Italy it was absolutely shocking with blizzards. Didn't seem to affect Mr. Nibali, did it? How would the rain affect today? Well, we were about to find out. Whistles blown, flag waved, and almost immediately we were underway. Cilingi loves a blue jersey, and he found himself in the break today. Chasing them down, 4 riders up the road, was checking out of Neri Satoli. He did manage indeed to just latch on to those up the road. Finally the blue jersey was revealed once the rain cape had been taken off. So Cilingi up there, along with Lotto Belisel of Docs, Rubiano of Colombia, Godoy of Androni Giacatoli, and checking out, as we've already told you, from Neri Satoli. Well, you join us live right now, and it has dried during the course, which is absolutely fantastic. So rain capes off, and indeed the advertising, which of course blesses the jerseys within cycling and makes it so colourful, on display. So there we are. Godoy is here, along with Chavez, checking out Cilingi and Docs. 5-man breakaway down, and they've got 4 minutes and 15. That's not bad.
No, similar to yesterday, of course, one more rider in this breakaway than yesterday. Orica Greenedge doing a great job again of controlling things at the start of the stage. And yesterday's pink jersey, Sven Tuff, the Canadian, is the rider on the front of the bunch, controlling things for that team behind. That's a job that he's extremely good at. I remember, I think it was a stage of Tirreno Adriatico last year when they were in the leader's jersey of that race. He chased behind a 4-man breakaway and did it all on his own.
Well, Michael Matthews is the wearer of the pink jersey, don't forget. He'll be carrying that on the plane and away after yesterday finishing within the main sprinting group that crossed the line, led over by, of course, Marcel Clotel. So very much looking forward to today and how this one pans out. 112.9 kilometres still to go. Not the fastest pace so far. And you're looking at the Maglia Rosa right now. Orica Greenedge set their stall out very, very early, did a proper job when it came to the team time trial. Yesterday, Michael Matthews finished in 8th place, and as a result, he took over the jersey due to a split that happened and was declared yesterday at the very end. And so, tough handing it over, but it stays within that team. As a result, they are doing most of the chasing, and it's the familiar bearded four.
Yes, Sven Tuft has certainly been on the front as long as we've had pictures in our commentary box for about 20 minutes before we came on air with the live pictures for you guys at home. You can see in the distance the Italian colours of Santa Romita, an Italian national champion, part of that Orica Greenedge team. He's their man for the general classification, but as you said, Carlton, Matthews will be looking to keep that jersey for around about a week. He's got a pretty good cushion on most riders, and whether or not he can keep it on Wednesday's stage, which does finish up a reasonable climb, remains to be seen. But certainly when he came up on the podium yesterday, he was so happy to get that pink jersey. I think also the atmosphere there was so good with the fans there in Belfast cheering him as he came on. It was a really special moment for him, and I think for everybody there.
It really was. The people of Belfast were absolutely magnificent. Indeed, right throughout the province, it was just stunning. We absolutely loved it. And in fact, we love the fact that the cloud has broken here and we've got some sunshine, even if it is starting to fizz the cameras as far as Neris and Tony are concerned. Let's do these guys the honour, shall we? We know about Chilling. He's in the blue jersey from yesterday, where he took the King of the Mountains points. He's done exactly the same again today. Yonder Godoy of Androni Giacottoli, there is in second place in the blue and white, just behind the King of the Mountains leader. He's not bad either. 4th in the Sao Paulo International, 2.2 race in Brazil. But he's only 21, and he was 5th in the youth classification in Trentino. So yeah, he is handy. And such a raft of South Americans doing so well. Oh, fantastic. Gypsy Caravan along the way, one of the old traditionals. You can actually hire those, you know, as a little knob underneath the back axle. No, I mean, you can rent them. 111.4, 3 minutes and 56 it started. Indeed, so has the rain further down. See how mixed it is. Let's Thomas again, famously won up the Stelvio. He can climb on his day, but he's a man who blows very, very hot and cold. Right now, very cold and wet. And just taking what looked like a bit of a gel. I think we were actually seeing some pictures from earlier on. We are racing in and out of the clouds. It'd be nice if it stays dry towards the end down. We've kind of teed it up a bit, but we're a little bit worried if a cloud does burst for the finale.
Yeah, it's a complicated run-in. We had a quick look at it this morning. Just over a kilometre to go. They do a double left over the river here in Dublin, and then there's a big narrowing around about 800 metres to go around the right-hand corner. It remains straight around about 350 to go. We've got a technical chicane. It's perhaps more than it looks like in the road book, which all of the teams we are supplied with. And from there, it's straight to the finish, slightly uphill. I'll just say like a 1 or 2% grade. It doesn't sound like very much at all, but when you're going at those kind of speeds, it can be quite energy sapping for the sprinters, and there's a slight headwind from what I can see as well, so timing once again is going to be crucial if you want to have a chance of stage victory today.
By the way, Godoy is listed as AND, which I believe is Andorra. He's actually VEN. Don't know how they managed to get that wrong, but he's Venezuelan. Yes, he's on
Androni, his team.
But it was next to the flag. Oh dear, I think it's time for me to go and have a lie down. If you hear a little muffled pop, you'll know it's me. 110, thank you. There we are. So, Venezuela. Forgive me. 3 minutes 35. There'll be more errors.
It says next to Chalengi, Belgian. Oh no, Belkin, sorry.
That's what guy Anyway, Rubiano is also here of Team Colombia, national champion incidentally, at the age of 29. He's very much the daddy of the team because the Colombians It's youth in abundance, and they've got so much coming through. You just be scared, everybody, if you're a cycling fan, because Colombia are absolutely just awash, it seems, with talent. It's a great system they've got. They're bringing on youth riders, and we're seeing it each and every race that we commentate on. Yeah, wiping himself down. 103.6 kilometres to go. Yeah, Marcel Kittel, it's his birthday, so there's cards everywhere, not just the Mother's Day cards, not that I'm a mother to anyone. We will leave that one there. 103.4 kilometres to go. 3 minutes and 28, and isn't it lovely? I was talking about the Good Lord following the breakaway, because it seems that they have got this sunspot which is tracking all the way down to the line. Meanwhile, the pack seem to be in cloud. Bizarre.
Yeah, surprising how quickly the weather can change in just that 3.5 minutes difference. Probably somewhere in the region of 3 kilometres seems to be, at the moment, making all the difference. But certainly in the breakaway, they'll be very happy to have the sun beating down on them, although the nearest Sasoli rider there.
103 to go.
Intermediate sprint coming up.
It's now about this sprint and its points. And Scenic is such a greedy so-and-so. Nobody allowed to have Yesterday, incidentally, he took that blue jersey. He walked off. It was freezing cold. He was wet, but happy. And then we ran after him and said, well, not us personally, of course, we were here, and said, oh, you haven't spoken to the press. And so he walked all the way back. We opened the press room and said, sorry, we're off air now. So we had to walk all the way back again. I think he's sticking it to us, and today if we ask him for an interview, he'll probably just say, no, could have had me yesterday, but he didn't want me. Did a super job then. He's taken both KOMs and the intermediate sprint. He is rocketing up in all classifications, it seems. We'll see how he finishes today. This is relaying back in for Feddy, who was in yesterday's break, and just had an unfortunate glue incident, I think we're allowed to say, a few moments ago. Using the cars, doing it expertly, it's supposedly frowned on, but at this stage of the race, when it has no impact on the result, at least for now, he's being allowed to do it. Cutting and turning, and the sunshine really is following these guys, because with a gap of only 3 minutes and 23, the pursuers are constantly in the dark, it seems, so they really are under the spotlight. Just listen to the crowds. Every single time we come through a village or a town, they're out in force.
Out there who get fed up with constantly having energy bars and gels, but yeah, I didn't really ever get particularly tired of them, and that was my food of choice. There's always times when you prefer to have something different, and yeah, the soigneurs, which you see on your screens now, handing out the bags, who are responsible for many things in the world of cycling. They do an extremely hard job and extremely long hours, especially during a Grand Tour. Get up in the morning and prepare the food, maybe get the clothing of the riders out of the dryer, which they've washed the previous day, hand that out, etc, etc. You can put those cases into a van. Some of the soigneurs will go straight to the following, or that evening's hotel, and put all their bags in the room for the riders, so they don't have to do it when they get there. Water in there as well. Some of the soigneurs will go to the start and then go on to the feed zone, which you see here, to hand out the bags of food and drink, which they prepared also in the morning. And then they'll go straight to the finish and be on the finish with warm clothes, recovery drinks and everything else for the riders. Get back to the hotel and have to start massages. It's a really tough job, and you've got to really love the sport to do.
There we are. There are still a few lumps to come, and in fact the maximum incline that they'll be dealing with today is 8%, which isn't, it isn't too easy, but nonetheless doesn't last terribly long. There's a lot of